Ladies and gentlemen, we are a little late, but we are live. Let's go. Magnus Carlsen versus Alireza Faruja. Oh, baby. Oh, I'm not even set up yet. Hold up. Oh, no. Magnus is winning game one. No. All right, now we're set. No, Magnus takes game one with 96% accuracy through 45 moves of the game. No, Alireza. They play quite rapidly, right? Okay. I mean, I'm pulling for Alireza here, but we got to watch from Carlsen's perspective, right? Have to. Like, Alireza is the young, up and coming Titan, but Magnus is arguably the GOAT. Love you, Zod. Appreciate the love, V Blitz. Alright, that's a great first comment of the Twitch stream. Shout out. Hey G, what's up, Derosion? Come on, Ali, you got the white pieces, kid. Strike back! Bro, just go live. It's like telling me to make a brilliant move after I just made one. What do you mean? I just did. Is that not what we just did? Alright. Magnus takes game one, which is very unfortunate for Alireza because if Magnus starts out hot, he is notorious for maybe not having the greatest starts to matches, but just getting stronger as time goes on. Wow. If you takes. Oof. Magnus hits him with a brilliant only a couple moves later. Wow, queen to a3 is a blunder. Oh my goodness, because of knight to b8. I'm not sure I've ever seen a rook trap like that in my life. What even is that? Game two! Game two! Ah! No! Taking it back. I haven't seen this opening in forever. Ay, ay, ay. Come on, Alireza! Alright, I want a good match. I want this to go back and forth. Last time I commentated a final between Alireza and Magnus Carlsen, I believe Alireza ended up winning, or getting blown out of the water. It was the chess.com speed championship. Alright. That blunder was massive. Did you say massive? Hmm. Alright. As head commentator, head editor-in-chief of the stream, I gotta set the stage here, alright? I am the cameraman, the commentary, the producer, the director, basically everything in this stream, alright? Sound guy, music guy, editor guy. Editor guy kind of sucks at his job, but that's alright, you know? No one's perfect. Okay. This as a 10-minute rapid chess, 0-second increment. Every game is basically guaranteed to be the stuff of absolute legend, alright? So we gotta set the stage. Who's winning? Magnus won game one. Okay, let us set the stage. Magnus Carlsen, Alireza Faruja. Only song choice to make it happen. Hurry. If you can't get hype for Magnus Carlsen playing against Alireza Firouzja in 10-minute rapid chess, alright, there might not be any hope for you. Every single game these guys play is going to look like computerized chess to the nth degree, and we get to watch it. And they're playing on the biggest of stages too. If you can't get hype for this, again, there might not be hope for you. Alright? Every single game these guys play, they're trying to prove to the other guy that they're the stronger player, right? The psychological battle behind the talent is why every single time these guys play, it is such elite chess, because every single game, every single move, they're trying to prove to the other person, I'm superior to you. I know how to move the pieces better than you do. Alright? Alirez is arrogant, but he's got the stats to back it up. But obviously Magnus is Magnus. You know, he's not going to back down to anyone, nor should he. Alright? But it makes every single game so entertaining. And we get to watch it on the biggest stage. Magnus has 100% accuracy. Are you surprised? Alright? If you look at his classical games, Magnus Carlsen averages a blunder once every like 2,000 moves, like a true blunder. It's a crazy statistic. 2939, welcome to Carlsen's world. He's the world number one for a reason. 2939 is egregious. That means you're treating number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9 in the world. You're just beating up on them. It is an egregious rating to have. Alright? No one should possess 2939. Alireza Firouzja has an insane rapid record, and it's 2854. The fact that Magnus Carlsen has it at 2939, and he already has the bishop pair with the black pieces. Ali, what are you doing, kid? Wake up! Why does Magnus have the bishop pair 13 moves in? What is this? His pawn structure is solid. One central pawn per side, which is huge for the endgame. It'll help dictate who controls the center. But the board is already opened up. The bishops are active. Alright. We can't panic. We can't panic. Oh, but Ali, I don't think this is what you want. And Magnus is also doing brilliantly on the clock. Look at the time situation. My days. It's Alireza. He's going to win regardless. Normally, I would agree, but it's like an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. We got Radu dropping the heart me and the rose oaks with the 2 goats shout out. Alright, chat. I gotta pause the music. Alright. The blood pressure is already rising as is. Alright. This match is gonna take years off my life. Just doing commentary on it. I'm not even competing. I don't even have like a horse in the race. And just by virtue of being in the presence of these two, alright, I'm gonna take multiple years off my life trying to get this thing commentated. Let me readjust this accuracy bar. Thin it out a bit. Alright. Now let's turn up the pieces. There we go. Alright. Floating happy. We're also live on Twitch over at General Zod Chess. Is Alireza like number 2 in the world or something? So Alireza, rating wise, I think he's like number 5 in the world right now for as far as classical chess. He's floated at number 2. He's floated like number 3, like top 5 for the last little while. But he's my personal pick to be the next like number 1 player. I think the talent, just the insane pattern recognition, the insane nerves, the almost arrogance this kid has to prove that he's better than anyone, and the flashes of dominance that we've seen from him, to me, is the closest we're going to get to the next Magnus out of the current generation of chess players we've seen. Now, I don't think Alireza at his peak or Alireza's career is going to be nearly as dominant as Magnus Carlsen's, because Carlsen just had a top, he has a top 3 chess career of all time. It's going to be insanely hard to beat. You could argue it's top 2 and not 2. But Alireza, my pick to overtake Magnus, already. But he's got to get it done, man. Black has so much compensation for this lost pawn. The center is nice and built up, right? He's controlling the board. The board is also very open for the bishops. The one positive for Alireza in this is that there's no true weakness in his position, right? That means there's nothing for black to attack. So while white can't advance the position as of right now in order to like force pieces off the board, force black backwards, or force weaknesses onto black side of the board, at the very least, there's nothing like no king side attack, no loose pawns for black to attack and create holes in the white position, really. So, Alireza is holding pretty steady. I love bishop to c5. When you're ahead on material, always try and exchange pieces of equal value off. And when your opponent has the bishop pair, always try and get rid of one pair of bishops. The bishop pair is considered to be a strength in chess because it's basically like a mini queen almost, because in an open position. Because the biggest weakness of the bishop is it only hits one color, and now that it's hitting both colors with both pairs on the board, it's much, much, much harder to contend against, especially in an endgame. But sometimes in the middle game even, right, you might be susceptible to attacks on the king side. Got to keep an eye on h2 in the future. d4 is just an absolute, what do you call it? Absolutely ignoring what I was just talking about. Alireza does not mind opening up the h2 ba diagonal whatsoever, trying to make a break through the center. He's saying, if you don't recapture on d4, I can eventually go pawn d5 and deactivate your light square bishop, right? What's the time control? The time control is 10 minutes, 0-second increment, which is very, very, very interesting, all right? In high-level tournament play, we almost never see... this is the twist of the tournament, is that we never really see grandmasters at this level of the game competing with no increment, right? There's always a safeguard. You're never truly running out of time. You're always guaranteed at least 1 second. But since this is being played, even though it's in person, they're playing online, that means you can pre-move, a move that you make before your opponent moves. It only takes 1/10 of the second of your clock, so you can move very, very quickly. So it's very, very interesting to see how this goes. We got Oaks dropping 17 roses in a galaxy. Oh, baby. Shout out, Oaks. Appreciate the heartbeat, elated Zol. All right. I don't think if it comes down to a time scramble that Magnus is in the same league as Alireza as far as speed with the mouse, right? So this format favors Alireza more so than anyone except maybe Hikaru. This is literally Alireza's format, but also if Magnus wins this, like, yikes. Alireza. That's going to be a tough, the truth is going to hurt. Alright, wait until Zod finds out about me. There you go, don't spend it all in one place. Probably spend it on another 14 Arizona teas. Cheers to that. Bishop to d4. I might not be able to grab it. Need Magnus to shush the crowd again? I mean, he shushed the crowd over the course of his career, so even if he doesn't shush the crowd here, like, you know, he's done it so many times throughout his career. I wonder if you can't go bishop to d8. It might be too slow, though, because you can take on e4. If you take on on f3 and I capture on f6, yeah. You have to capture with the pawn back because you don't want the bishop to hang. If you capture on f6, you can take on g2 with check. Magnus gives up the bishop pair, and he's going to go after the light square weaknesses, probably f3. Grandmasters, especially super grandmasters, love creating permanent weaknesses in their opponent's position. This f3 pawn is now permanently on a light square. He's always going to be able to attack it in the long term with his light square bishop, right? But on the other hand, the Alireza or the G file can belong to Alireza. Put pressure on G7. The centralized queen is actually magnificent. Alright, look at that. And she's helping support the D pawn. You have to be very careful about pushing this d pawn though, because you don't want to activate white's bishop too quickly. Alireza has 3 minutes to go here, and I think Magnus playing this also was intended to put Alireza in the think tank, right? You create weaknesses or threats on both sides of the chessboard, and your opponent has to come to a critical decision, right? You give him the illusion of choice. You make him think. You put him in the think tank and force him to come up with the decision rather than giving him an only move where there's only one good move in the position. As a good player, Alireza will likely find it, so you give him multiple good moves in the position, forcing him to use valuable time. 2:43 on the ticker for Alireza. You gotta go, kid. You gotta go. Kid, you gotta go. What are you doing? Knight to e4? I mean, knight e4 looks reasonable. It stops the queen from going to c2. It centralizes the horsey. All right, hop in the pony. Hop in the pony. Just play a move. Alireza, you gotta go. What is going on? Oh, good gravy biscuits, man. All that time, that was half of his remaining time. All that to play knight to e4. Oh. And Magnus is taking advantage of it, immediately playing bishop f5. He doesn't care if it's a great move. He has Alireza on the ropes. We're talking about a kid who's able to play accurate 90% accurate plus chess with less than 10 seconds on his ticker, all right? But, like, time is finite. You get no increment. You have a minute. You understand in these situations, right? He now has a minute. You can't look at it as he has a minute 40 left on his clock. You have to look at it as he has a minute and 35 seconds left to win this chess game. Because if he doesn't win the chess game in a minute and 30 seconds, he loses. It's that simple. It doesn't matter if he's up a rook, if he's up a rook, a knight, a queen, 5 queens. If he doesn't win this game in a buck 24, he loses. It's that simple. So you have a minute 20 to checkmate Magnus Carlsen. This is not going to get it done. Magnus is just blitzing moves out. He knows he's putting Alireza in pressure on the clock. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. Both players are playing quite accurately, but Alireza senses that his position is better, that he should be pressing for more, and he's trying to play perfect chess. Sometimes you can't play perfect chess. Sometimes you have to just play the most natural looking moves, trust your instincts, and go with the flow, right? Trust yourself to get it done down the line instead of trying to force something to happen now, all right? We got Oaks dropping everything under the kitchen sink, 2 whipped cream and a rose. Shout out, baby. All right. We're also live on Twitch over General Zod Chess. You guys want to check out the stream with a wider view. Hopefully, in a different timeline, Alireza is moving faster, all right? Unfortunately, if you go over to Twitch... Oh, he's still moving at the same speed. Oh my goodness, it doesn't work. Oh, I mean, it's just an equal rook and pawning game. Alireza has 27 seconds to draw this. Although, all right. If Alireza is able to cement a draw in this position, I would probably submit that amongst greatest speed feats ever, all right? In those power scaling subreddits, you guys ever see those where they talk about who's better, Sonic the Hedgehog or like Flash? I would submit Alireza Firouzja drawing this game against Magnus Carlsen with 26 seconds left if he gets it done. All right, it's a very big if. You might have to go rook b5 though. Oh, Alireza can get this done. Uh-oh. That's a blunder? You have to start pushing P on the queen side? That's insane. Uh-oh. Oh, no. But Magnus might not know this. All right, hold up. The only winning move is pawn to b4. Yeah. Pawn to b4 is a crazy, crazy inhuman move to play. All right? I've never even heard of that. And Alireza, he adjusts. He realizes pawn to b4 is actually winning. Maybe he only realizes it now, but pawn to b4 would be a insane move, all right? The reason is I think it shuts down these 2 pawns and your king gets in, and white is eventually forced back. The 3-2 majority wins out. Okay. But Alireza still only has 16 seconds. One mistake. King and pawn in games are some of the trickiest in games in chess. One mistake is all it takes. This is a theoretical draw. Eventually, you can just go pawn to h5. All is a-okay. He has 16 seconds, all right? If he can get these 3 pawns advance up the board before he hits 10 seconds, he's got this in the bag, baby, all right? Pawn to h5, pawn to a3. He's got to start pushing p on the queen side. Walk his king over. He's got it. He's got it. 14.9 though. Magnus is trying to figure out how he can make this tricky. All right. It only takes one step in the wrong direction. Okay. Alireza holds it to a draw, but keep in mind Magnus won game 1. So while Alireza did do a good job of holding it to a draw here, all right, avoided going down 0-2, Magnus is still ahead in the match, and drawing with the black pieces is never a bad outcome. So while it's impressive that Alireza did hold it to a draw here, this is not a bad result for Magnus whatsoever. He was pushing Alireza until the very end, and there was absolutely no point in the match where Magnus was close to losing, right? I mean, maybe for a little bit before the brilliant rook sack. Let's see. For a little bit, I think Alireza was pushing. This d-pawn could have become quite strong, but this is the problem, right? White is probably ever so slightly better, but then Magnus plays this move pawn to f4, and Alireza doesn't start playing it accurately, but look at the time situation. 4:14 for Magnus, 3:59 for Alireza, and now after knight to e4, look at the amount of time that he spent playing this very natural-looking move. He was definitely considering tactics in the position, rook to g1 maybe, rook to f2, just safeguarding everything, all right? But he spent almost half of his remaining time playing this move, and then the next move by Magnus, look how little time Magnus spent, 2 seconds, instantly pelted out bishop f5, and then Alireza spent he spent in 2 moves, what is this? 3:59 and 2:17, he spent a minute 12, and then he spent 2:17 to 1:31, 37 seconds? What is that? He spent like a minute and 54 seconds in like 2 moves, half of his remaining time, and then a minute right there, and then he's down to 30 seconds. Magnus finds the brilliant rook takes e4, and the idea is if you capture the rook with the pawn, then you can capture with the bishop. You take with the rook or the queen, it doesn't matter. Either way, it's going to be the same position, but slightly better for black. So Alireza chose the more natural take here. You don't capture the queen, you take the rook. And now the 2 rooks are both under attack, and this is what Magnus saw in the position. He was definitely calculating this on Alireza's time, right? Notice how Magnus has spent basically no time to play any of these moves, while Alireza was going ahead and spending basically the rest of his time on every single move. He probably saw all of that. That's why he was spending his time. And this was the blunder in the position and the chance for Magnus to win the game. If you play pawn to b4, now, all of a sudden, after pawn to b4, there's no way for these 3 pawns to advance, and this 3-2 majority for black gets down the board. Like, if you try and advance with a pawn to a3, pawn takes a3, pawn takes a3, you advance over here, pawn to h5, and if you try and waltz your king over to help out these 2 pawns, then these 3 are going to march down the board, right? And this black king is always going to be able to target one of these 2 pawns over here. If you ever go like h4, I think there's the g5 sacrifice, but you have to be careful about that. You go king to e5, king to e1, king to d4, king to d2, king to c4, and you can't keep the black king out. b5, and you're getting in eventually. You either get in this way or this way. I don't know how Magnus was able to win game 1. I saw it briefly. It was this rook trap, knight to b8, a brilliant rook trap that won the exchange. Alireza played this natural-looking move, queen to a3, and it doesn't look like a blunder whatsoever. Definitely not a double question mark blunder. But after knight to b8, I think Alireza I don't know how any human sees knight to b8. That's a crazy looking move. If you capture, takes, and it's not checkmate because you can sacrifice the queen, but it's the same in-game that ended up happening in the game, rook versus knight, alright? I mean, knight to b8 is a deadly blow. Did he set this up? Yowza. What a trap! Knight to b8. Oh, and it just clips. A rook versus knight in-game. You can never survive this. He just trapped the knight. The knight has nowhere to go. Oh my goodness. Every square the knight moves to, it gets eliminated. That's insanity. He showed mercy. He should have just beat him. Alright. Game 3 getting set to get underway. Hold up, chat. I gotta go grab my food. Ugh. Start. That's alright. He showed mercy and he should have just beat him. I don't think he showed mercy. Pawn to b4 is just a crazy hard move to find. It's also the kind of move that can lose you the in-game as well, right? I think he probably should have used more time after king to g2, just because why not? But there was also probably, in his eye, a greater chance of him winning the in-game via playing quickly and then Alireza also being forced to play quickly and therefore blundering than there was spending the rest of his time, which would have allowed Alireza to spend his time to figure out the ways to draw. Because in a king and pawn in game, there's very, very limited options. So if Magnus spent his time too much, Alireza would have been able to think on Magnus Carlsen's time and use the rest of that to figure out the drawing lines. Are they playing OTB? They're playing 5 feet away from each other, but technically they're playing online. That way they can use a mouse in order to pre-move and make moves in time pressure. Whereas normally, if you were playing in a zero increment tournament game, there would be pieces flying all over the place as everyone's trying to make moves at ultra speed. Alright, appreciate the follow, Michael. Appreciate the follow, Folu. Shout out. 1v1 in bullet 30. Yes, I'm not doing anything else at the moment. Appreciate the heartbeat, Daniel. Appreciate the 2-hand heart. Shout out. Who won 3rd place? Hikaru, baby. Alright. Old man Hikaru getting her done. He defeated Arjun. Magnus could have won at the end there, but he also could lose, so he chose draw. Yeah, it's a reasonable outcome. I think if the situations were reversed and Alireza won game 1, then Magnus probably would have tried to play on for a win there, but a draw with the black pieces, not a bad result. Alright. Game 3 is about to get underway. Magnus really is the Thanos of chess these days. He's been the Thanos of chess for the last 15 years. Thanks. Or not just these days. He's been Thanos for as long as like 20, 2013, 2014 probably. Maybe a little earlier, maybe. Appreciate the follow. Innes, shout out. When does it start? It starts in 500 hours. What you see right before you is an optical illusion. Alright, game 3 is in fact not underway. Oh, they're this line of the Karo Khan is very, very dry, but okay. They're not going into an in-game on move 3, thank goodness. Dude, I need you to start catering your late night streams for people that work. I always falling asleep at the time you start. Listen, we're global, alright? Sometimes people are like, Zod, start the late night streams, and other people are like, what do you mean the late night streams? It's like 3 a.m. for me. Which is really cool. Alireza's got to be aggressive and try and play for a win, so he's already established the center. But on the other hand, this formation for white is notoriously solid. Like, there's no weaknesses, right? And you always have ways of striking back for space or counterplay through the center of the board. The one problem for white in this position is the dark square bishop, but it's not really a problem because in a closed structure like this, you don't need every single piece on the board to be immediately active, right? There's not room for everything on the chessboard, so it's okay to have some pieces inactive as long as you're making sure the pieces that you do have active are fulfilling roles at attacking or defending the center of the chessboard, right? Pawn to a5 by Alireza, a very odd looking move. You like, why do you do it? Simple reason, grab some space, alright? Try and maybe poke and prod holes in the white position if they want to play a4 to counter. But instead, Magnus follows the old principle. Whenever your opponent grabs space or tries for an attack on the wings of the chessboard, you attack through the center. Because a central attack is almost always going to be faster than a wing attack. Alright, appreciate the follow, Bardic H, appreciate the follow, Smiley Face, appreciate the follow, Alexi Hamel, shout out. What are you eating? Taco Bell, baby. Pawn takes on d4, knight takes on d4 to activate the light square bishop. Knight to a6. You see pawn to a5 and knight to a6 a lot at the grandmaster level. Computers also love this. Whenever I look at opening lines and I'm playing against a 3200 rated engine to see what it wants to play against me, it always loves pawn a5, knight a6. And to me, that just looks like anti-chess, because you're always taught to not put your knight on the edge of the board. A knight on the rim is dim, its chances are slim. But on the other hand, it's when you have this kind of formation, usually a pawn on c6, the bishop on a lot of the time to a6, and your bishop light squares in the position. Who are you rooting for? I'm rooting to see as many chess games as humanly possible. I want this match to go the distance. I don't know. Alireza is like my pick. Alright, he's like my pick to be the next Magnus. I don't think by next Magnus I mean like the next #1 chess player in the world, where we're all like, yeah, this is the guy. But like, he's not going to replicate Magnus's career dominance, right? Top 3 chess career of all time. Some say top 2 and not 2 or 8. The audio is cutting out here. Let me. Put the mic in and out or eat. Top 3. Who's top 1 and 2? I mean, I would probably have Magnus 2. Fischer's 3. And then Gary would be 1. I was gonna say I just started playing chess, and all the chess league lessons tell us not to put our knights on the edge of the board. Yeah, but when you're 2860 or 2856 rapid, you're allowed to ignore all the chess league rules and just make your own. Basically, whatever you want becomes like a new rule. All right. If Alireza says, actually, I can just capture this knight because this knight is worth more than this rook would be, then he can capture the knight. Alright. These guys create their own rules. Whatever they say kind of just goes. And you're like, well, you don't put your knights on the edge of the board unless you're Magnus Carlsen or Alireza Firouzja, in which case do what you want. Why Kasparov over Magnus? Well, I think Kasparov's career was probably has greater was just greater than Magnus if you go by like accomplishments, because that's all we can go by really. You can't go by strength because it's like different eras, but because chess is just like a sport, it's meant to evolve. Everything evolves, right? So, but when you go by the greatest accomplishments ever by a chess player in their career, right? I would say some of the most significant that Magnus is known for is he has the highest rating ever achieved. He went 125 straight games of classical FIDE chess without a single loss, which is mind-blowingly insane. I don't know if that record will ever be broken. Ding came kind of close. Ding went 98 games without a loss. Prime Ding, who's like a fortress you just couldn't break through. Um, but 125 games without a loss by Magnus is insane. Highest rating ever. 5-time world chess champion. Um, all of those stats are like insane to me, crazy feats. But then you have Gary Kasparov, right? And I just look at the level of dominance Gary had over the chess world, and while Magnus, like his records are probably unbreakable. I mean, Gary Kasparov from the years of 1981 to 1991 would either come in first place or tie for first in every single tournament that he entered. For 10 years, all you would see for first place was Gary Kasparov. Every tournament. 10 years. That is insanity. The first time Gary Kasparov lost an official one-on-one chess match, not like took an L, in a game, because he lost many times in tournament play, but in a one-on-one match, right, against someone else, the first time that Gary Kasparov lost, he debuted in like 1978. The first time he lost a match was in 1999 to Deep Blue, an AI specifically programmed to beat Gary Kasparov that lost to him before and got to study those games, and Gary didn't get to study Deep Blue. So it was an unfair match, all right? And Gary still only lost 4-2 in that match. The first human to beat Kasparov was Kramnik. Shout out Vladimir, all right, in like '01 in the World Chess Championship. That includes World Chess Championships, by the way. Gary just didn't lose. Like, the most dominant chess career from start to finish we'll ever see. Highest rating ever achieved. He was number one for, I believe, 20 years straight until the year he retired, rating-wise. Played with some of the all-time greats, but he was just always head and shoulders above everyone else. This position has gotten and stayed pretty dry. At least Alireza has the bishop pair he can boast about, alright? I don't know if he can squeeze out enough to play for any actual advantage in this position, because it's, again, so dry. If you have a pawn structure on both sides of the chessboard like this, with everything still pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Original? like close to the original structure, right? No pawns have been too prematurely advanced, no weaknesses have been created. As long as you have that, it's going to be extremely hard to poke weaknesses. At the very least, black has some light squares in the white camp that he can poke around and inquire about, but because all of white's pawns are on dark squares, then the white square bishop will never actually be able to attack anything, and you don't have enough firepower to actually threaten the white king at any point. So all you can do is poke and prod, poke and prod, poke and prod, and hope that Magnus gives you either one square that he didn't see coming or some tactic. I will say that so many times chess players hear the end game and then they start like, they're like, ugh, strategy, ugh, planning, you know. They think it's all about strategy, all about planning, all about creating a passed pawn, and they think tactics are non-existent. Tactics in the end game are uh, what do you call it? The tactics in the end game they are everywhere. They flourish in the end game. It's because it's when people least expect them, and it's because it's always guaranteed to be when you have the least amount of time in any chess game, because it's the end game. It's when every chess player is at their most vulnerable, because they're always guaranteed to have the least amount of time, right? Than in any other phase of the game, because you're at the end of the game. All right, this is when everyone becomes susceptible to tactics. And Alireza is a genius at creating these little hidden tricks and traps. But obviously, Magnus is the greatest in-game chess player of all time. I don't think it's even close. All right. But Alireza, you gotta stop falling into these think tanks, man. They're gonna kill you. Hello, Zod from Finland. Shout out Finland, baby. All right. King to e2. Magnus knows all he needs here is to just keep drawing. Hold Alireza to these draws, alright? King to e2. And if you capture on f4, yes, you ruin white's pawn structure, but notice how every single one of white's pawns are on a dark square. No matter how well placed this light square bishop is, it will never be able to attack the weakened white pawns, and the game will always end in a draw. If Alireza wants to turn this into anything, he needs to keep the bishop pair on the chessboard until the vital moment of truth when he might be able to exchange them for something. The black king can't easily enter the center of the chessboard thanks to the dark square bishop, right? Even if you go king to f6, there's no easy entry because the knight cuts you off. So Alireza, maybe you just capture an f4, take a draw, live to see another day. You're down 2 minutes on the clock. There's a non-zero chance you could. But this is why I love watching Alireza versus Magnus, man, because Alireza does not. I'll give you guys a little secret here. Alireza does not think Magnus Carlsen is a better chess player than he is. Alireza thinks that he is a better chess player than Magnus Carlsen. And Magnus Carlsen knows that Alireza thinks that. That's why every single time these guys play, it's just a clash. Now, Magnus obviously doesn't believe it. He thinks Alireza's like, nah, it's cool that you think that, but I know who I am, right? And so every single time these guys play, it's just a clash, So many players right there would have taken the draw versus Magnus. They would have been like, okay, well, Magnus is offering me a draw right here. I'm going to take it, and I'll live to fight on another game, right? And Magnus knows that Alireza isn't going to take a draw, so he can also play these kinds of moves. And he doesn't get the chance to do that against many players, right? He doesn't get the chance to play on and not have to worry about his opponent limping out into a draw, right? It's so much fun to watch. It's so entertaining. That's why every single time these guys meet up, it is must-watch chess, all right? And now you have a little bit of an advantage maybe if you can get the king to the center. But Alireza misses it. He was worried about the pawn on a4 or a5 becoming a weakness, so he pushes it to a4. But it's a preemptive push. It's a preemptive push, all right? The doctors did not approve. They did not tell that pawn to keep pushing. King needs to come to e6. Always bring the king towards the center of the board. Ben Feingold is somewhere distressed. And now the pawn on f6 is too weak to be guarded. I think Alireza wanted bishop to b1. Lock this pawn onto a3. You have to retreat. Guard the pawn on f6 with the bishop on d8. But the thing is, you can never bring the king in. It's just locked up. And they won't let him down. Oh, king to e3. It's very, very hard to play perfect in-game chess with only 3 minutes and 2 minutes on your ticker. Alright, both players susceptible to blunders here because they know the clock is going to be utilized as a weapon by both sides. They both have it in the back of their head. You have to. There's no increment. Alireza knows he has 2 minutes left to achieve checkmate in this position. Magnus knows all he has to do is survive another 2 minutes and he wins the chess game. Alright, again, Magnus is going to be happy with the draw. He won game 1, got a very comfortable draw in game 2 that he almost could have won. Alireza might want to go ahead and take a draw here. You don't want to overextend, right? If you lose this game, all of a sudden you're down in a huge, huge hole in the position or in the match, right? Alireza's going for it though. I love this kid's mentality. I love it. I love it. He's going for it. He does not back down. Down in the match, alright? Down a minute on the ticker, he says, I have the bishop pair, I'm going to play on for the win. It reminds me, Bobby Fischer was infamously playing against a grandmaster, and they had the adjournment game, and the grandmaster offered Bobby Fischer a draw in a very, very similar in-game position to this, and Bobby Fischer said, I don't know whether or not I'm better, but I do know that I'm up a pawn, so therefore I'm going to play on, alright? It's that same kind of killer mentality you have to have. You don't even know if you're better, but you know you have to try. You have to make your opponent prove it, right? And you have to be careful now if you're Alireza. Buck 22 on the ticker. You don't want to overextend. Again, Magnus Carlsen is the greatest in-game player of all time. You do not toy with him. If you toy with him, you know, you're asking for it, right? Okay, I think this position is going to boil to a draw because knight to g3, you can't defend this pawn on h5, right? But you can go bishop to d7. It looks like Magnus, yeah, Magnus is trying to avoid a draw. Magnus is trying to test Alireza, which, by the way, you have to do as well, right? You can't let your opponent say, okay, I'm going to play on for the win, and then whenever he gets super low on time and he's like nervous, he's like, okay, now let me chicken out for the draw. You got to do your best to say, nah, that's not how that works, right? Now you got to earn your draw. And that's what he's trying to make him do here. Bishop to c6, though, by Alireza. I do think we're going to see one set of minor pieces exchanged here, alright, and this game should boil down to a draw. We still have Magnus in the lead by 1 point. Alireza is going to have the white pieces, and he's going to need to find a way to strike back, break through, alright? Although I shouldn't get ahead of myself. You never know. You never know. Alireza, why? Dude, what is he doing, man? Why are you not repeating? This is craziness, no? You're playing with fire. Like, you know who you're playing against. He wants bishop h6. He's trying to play on for the win. Alireza, you absolute madman. Bishop to e3 is what the computer wants, which is a crazy move. But I guess it makes sense. Knight to g3, yeah, it just seems like the human way to go. Obviously, bishop to h6 anyway. Okay. This is madness. This is absolute madness. It's not enough, though. It's not enough. And he only has 40 seconds. It's not going to be enough. Knight to e2 is such a gorgeous move. Having the strength of fortitude to not go after this pawn and instead to just bring the knight back to guard c3. It shows that he's the greatest in-game player of all time, not just offensively, but defensively as well. Alireza is going to... Dude, what are you doing? There is no increment. Are you insane? Are you mad, man? You have 30 seconds left. I don't even know if you can draw this. He's going to lose. Oh! He's the two-time Bullet World Champion, alright? 26 seconds is like an Amazon of time for this man. Okay. Magnus not taking any chances. We get the draw. Dude, I'm not even there. And my heart is like, ay. Alright. Alireza, dude, this kid needs to stop, alright? He is literally flirting with fire. Oh my days. Alright. Alireza with the white pieces. We still got to watch from Magnus' perspective. Magnus is up 2 points to 1 in the match. Saad is very in favor of Ali. I want to see this match go as many games as possible. So if I mean, I just know that if Ali, well, I feel that if Alireza goes down like 2 games, it's clips. You gotta win back to back on command against Magnus Carlsen. Bro, please stop with the alright, 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 alright. Is this match live? It is indeed live in action. Alright. Alireza really hates draws? No, but that's why it's so entertaining when these two players clash. Alright. We're also live on Twitch over General Zod Chess. You want to check out the stream with a wider view. Absolute cinema. Appreciate the heart me best to PR. What it do, Eli? Shout out, baby. Can you show Ali's missed move at the end when he gained an advantage for a second? So he had the chance to like keep the position from being a draw, but it wasn't winning, right? For a slight second, after bishop to c5, you don't go after the pawn on b2 immediately. You play bishop to c6 first, and all this does is force the game to continue. You play king to d4, bishop to f3, and now you guard the pawn on h5. This pawn on f5 is also going to become loose, and Alireza might have been able to push on for a win here. It's very, very improbable because he only had 54 seconds left, but again, he has to play faster. He has to play faster. Do they keep playing games until someone wins? No, they play sets. It's divided up into 3 different sets. Best of 3 sets. 3 best of 3 sets. Did Hikaru lose? Hikaru lost to Magnus Carlsen in the semifinal. 4 games to 3. I used to play this all the time when I was younger. Pawn c3. But I would always go pawn d4, overextend. Sometimes it would work against lower rated ops. And then when I crossed like the 1900 range when I was like 10, I encountered a lot of people who were good at blowing up that center nice and early. Alireza's got to be aggressive this game. You got to claim space wherever you can. All right, he's got the bathtub formation already in action right here. You got the little bathtub with the b4, c3, d3, and e4 pawns. And you got the a4 pawn added to it, so it's like a bathtub with a side jacuzzi. And he's claimed plenty of space on the queen side. The problem is there's no weakness in the black position, but you got to start somewhere. All right, you got to start somewhere. Magnus isn't going to let you get anything for free. All right. The biggest thing for me in this position or in this game is that Alireza's got to manage the time better. Once he gets down to that critical 5-minute, 6-minute range, assuming the game or assuming the position is still equal at that point, right? He's got to make sure he doesn't spend the last 3-4 minutes falling into those deep think tanks. Trust his instinct. He's the back-to-back bullet world champion, right? You have good instincts if you're playing that high-level bullet, you know? Trust him. Trust the gut. Right? Magnus, on the other hand, has been an impenetrable wall. Every single game, he has taken Alireza down to the last second on the ticker because Alireza's been burning gas trying to figure out how to pierce his position, and he hasn't figured out a way to do it. Magnus hasn't cracked, all right? Magnus is human, but he also is the closest thing you can get to inhuman, because to be able to do this at the world's largest stage with these kind of nerves, with no increment, knowing Alireza is the kind of player he is insane defensive play for Magnus. He's basically saying, if I don't want to lose, I'm not going to lose, all right, which is crazy. I can't even remember the last time I've seen this kind of like defensive dominance in a non-increment format. He's just not cracking. Like he's just not breaking. All right. Now there's still chess left to be played. We're still very, very early. Only 14 moves into game 4, so there's still plenty of chess left to be played. D5, striking back for the center. Don't forget the sniper in the corner, helping control the dark squares in the center of the chessboard. All right. If you capture on d5, you take back with the knight. So I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm not sure what Alireza does here. The general rule in chess is whenever you have tension in the middle of the board or anywhere on the board, the first side to recapture is worse off, alright? Because whenever you recapture, usually if there's no material gain in it for you, you're just giving way to your opponent's ideas and giving him a spatial advantage, allowing him to capture back towards the center or activate his pieces. Knight takes d5, and then you're targeting the pawn on c3. That's why the pawn on e5 doesn't fall. Bishop to d2. Often, bishop to d2 is memed by grandmasters to be the most boring move in chess, right? Because it doesn't actually ever attack anything, right? You're never winning the game with bishop to d2, but it's still sometimes a necessary move. So it's often dubbed the most boring move in chess, right? Weird way to pronounce the London system, but I digress. After rook to e8, after rook to e8 by Magnus, he supports the pawn on e5. And once again, there's no real weakness in his position. At least it's imbalanced, though, right? There's still plenty of chess left to be played, but this is the problem for Alireza. He's starting to overthink and try and force weaknesses into Magnus's position. I think he needs to just start making moves, right? Just move. Look at the time situation. Magnus is, I don't know, man. I don't like this one bit, right? Appreciate the follow. God is good. Shout out. Appreciate the rose. Resorto. These guys play like computers. I mean, they're the best players in the world for a reason, right? A lot of times they are playing against computers when they play or practice. You have to reach their level of the game, right? Because we as humans aren't very good at the game of chess by comparison, unfortunately. Ah! I gotta eat a taco. Alireza's stressing me out, man. Alright. He is stressing me out. These deep thinks are insane. You're rated 3,300 in bullet. But I've also been in Alireza's position, right? Where because you're so good at playing speed chess, you really, really trust yourself when you get low on time. When you have a lot of time, you'll often abuse it and burn all of your time and not worry about being low on time because you're trying to play accurately and you trust if you get low on time, you'll still play accurately. But it's a trap. Alright? You have to be willing to burn your opponent's time, not let them think on your time, and you have to be willing to trust your instincts and not try to play perfect chess in these kinds of low time, no increment situations. Is Magnus the highest rated in every game mode? He's the highest rated in the world for classical, rapid, and blitz. Online, he has the highest rapid rating. I think he has the third highest blitz rating, and I don't think he's top 5 in bullet right now. Please move. Alireza, you gotta go. He's burning too much time. He's not gonna have enough gas to get home, man. He's not gonna have enough gas for the ride back, I'm telling you right now. Magnus isn't gonna spend more than 15 seconds on this move maximum. Maybe not even 10. Knight df4, knight f6, one of the two. Time is telling the tale right now between the two players. Knight takes e5. Doesn't quite work. I don't think. Knight takes h3 if you capture on e5. Sayonara to the bishop pair. Guess we're counting on D's knights to bring it home. Alright. Should I be doing Puzzle Rush or should I be doing normal puzzles? Is it worth it to grind puzzles? Um, Puzzle Rush is better for like warming up before you play, and then puzzles are better for like your overall improvement because you should take your time. Improvement begins at the end of your comfort zone, right? And if you're uncomfortable because of the clock, or you're always going to be uncomfortable when you have the clock, so you aren't going to have enough time to think because you're trying to move quickly when you're rushing. You got to take your time. I love pawn to c5 though. I do really like this move, deactivating the bishop. I don't like how much time it took Alireza to come up with the move, but at least he's, like, accuracy is there, baby. Alright. Maybe there's some chances for Magnus to go wrong here. Maybe the bishop can just reactivate. You play rook to d8 and bishop to b8 in the future. But at least there's very little chance of Magnus retaining the bishop pair in this position, so that's a plus. a5, immediately striking at this pawn wall, which is more important than the pawn on e5 right now because Alireza is deactivating the dark square bishop, so Magnus wants to reactivate his bishop immediately, ASAP no riri. I don't know if after pawn to a5 you have time for rook a to d8 later, targeting this pawn on d3. This knight on g3 at the moment isn't doing much. At least the knight on f3 is hitting the pawn on e5. Maybe you can swing the horsey into d6. That would be a gorgeous knight. Pawn to d4. Alireza burning so much time on the ticker, man. This is not where we want to be. Appreciate the follow, Tom. Shout out. Aren't knights better attacking pieces? Knights are better attacking pieces usually in the short term. So if you have the knights, you got to try and strike quickly. ASAP no Rocky. Because eventually pawns usually get traded off in chess, right? It's not every chess position either, but usually the side with the knights has to try and strike quickly while the iron is hot, and the side with the bishops can kind of sit back and not wait for things to happen, but there's not as much of a need to make something happen quickly. Because over the course of the game, you're going to control more squares than the side with the knights, right? So you should have the better game, but obviously it's not a guarantee. Knight to d5 looks lethal, but apparently knight to e6, you attack the rook, break up this pawn chain on b4, and black is coasting. Alireza might not be able to draw this one. Zod, who do you want to win and who do you predict will win? I mean, I'm rooting for Alireza, man, but if he doesn't figure out his time usage, he's sunk. Like, every single game, it has been the tail of the tape that he is just getting, not outplayed by Magnus, but Magnus's time usage has just been so much smarter. Like here, Magnus is taking a deep think, but that's okay. It's what he thinks is a critical moment of the game, right? It's important to use your time when you need to use it, but Alireza is using his time in non-critical moments where there's multiple good moves he can make, and he's trying to find an even better good move, where he's trying to force a tactic, force weaknesses, and Magnus isn't giving him any, but Magnus is just playing at half the time usage. And in a time format with no increment, it's 10 minutes 0-second increment where you run out of time after 10 minutes. Alireza is basically turning it into a game of he has 2 minutes and 51 seconds to get checkmate, versus if Magnus also had 2 minutes and 51 seconds, then it would turn into a game of, okay, now both players are going to be low on time, someone might blunder low in time pressure versus and maybe you can make him run out of time versus you have to get checkmate, right? So you're cornering yourself and you're forcing yourself into only one option when you burn this much time in these no increment formats. Alireza is basically trying to abuse the fact that he's really, really good at playing fast time increments and trusting himself to play well in low time pressure. Rook to d8. I can't help but wonder if Magnus was a little overly worried about the attacks on the g-file. Alireza is doing his best to keep pieces on the board, and at the very least here, we're at least finally seeing him start to move quickly, right? He spent no time there. It might be the inaccurate move according to the computer, but again, Alireza needs to win, all right? Draws are not enough to get the job done at the moment. He has the white pieces. He has to strike. You have to keep pieces on the board. It's not about playing the most accurate chess necessarily. It's about playing whatever you think gives you a chance to win. I can't help but wonder, knight f5, too slow? You got to be careful. Open up the diagonal of the queen covering the h2 square. All right. Ali, you got to go. You got to go. Oh my goodness, man. He's got to go. Rook takes b4. I think it was the only move to play, too. All right, he found the best move. Magnus is just a fortress every game. Every game, Magnus is an unrelenting, unyielding fortress that bends but does not break. We have never seen Magnus in a losing position once in this match, which is insane given how aggressive Firouzja is. Firouzja is overextending, though. He's got to be willing to just play chess. All right? Rook to e4. I don't know how you break in. I don't. I think Alireza is bluffing here. I don't know how you break in. How many times does Magnus have to win in order to win the tournament? I believe it is 3 sets, or a best of 3 sets. So if Magnus wins this set as well, he's tournament champion. Am I not mistaken? If Ali can't generate something, rook to e8, by the way, looks like the move you have to go with, but I think you can just block everything with bishop to f8. It's a best of 6. Thank you, Tabi Danfeld. Oh! It's such a natural-looking move. You're attacking both pieces at once, but rook to d1, and then if king to h2, oh my days. Rook to d1, knight to f1. Hold up. Remember, a blunder's only a blunder if your opponent can prove it. Magnus isn't us. He doesn't see 2 red question marks when Alireza played queen to c4. He doesn't see that. He might sense it, but he's got to find it. Bishop takes f2. Oh, he sacrifices the bishop. The king, if he takes on f2, knight to d3. Oh, and the knight on g3 is loose. It's loose as a goose. Oh, no. And there's no checkmate with rook to e8. The queen's going to be on g3, so anytime the white queen checks you, you can always go back to g6. The king is on e3. Alireza, what are you doing? Queen to g6. Oh, no. Just pawn to g6. Queen f2. Made it 1. Oh. Magnus is just an impenetrable wall, man. But also, Alireza is doing this to himself, alright? He is doing this to himself, 1000%. He's not playing worse chess than Magnus, but he's trying to force himself to come up with ways of winning. And he's just overextending in every single game. Look at the time usage. Look at the time usage. Okay, a minute apart here is okay, right? Look at this. It just starts getting worse and worse. 7:30 to 9:10. Magnus only spends 5 seconds. 2 seconds here for Alireza. 2 minutes! 2 minutes! A third of your remaining time goes into queen to c2. Protecting the rook, or connecting the rooks and protecting d3. A very logical move, right? I think he was wondering about pawn to c4. But if you're going to play it, man, you got to just play it. Alright? Oh. And the time usage is just worse and worse and worse. You just look at the time Alireza is burning in comparison to Magnus. And when you put yourself in this low time pressure situation in a game with no increment, that is the key factor here, is that there's no increment for either side, right? You are turning it into a game of you now have 2 minutes and 51 seconds left to checkmate Magnus Carlsen, right? And you're not even better in the position to begin with, you know? And it's very, very difficult to force a win. All Magnus is doing here is forcing a draw. time and time again. If you exchange the rooks, this pawn on b4 is going to fall, the pawn on c5 is going to fall, and you can probably draw this game as white, but winning it is nigh impossible. Black's going to have a 2-1 in majority on the queen side, so Alireza purposely kept the rooks on the board, even though he knew it probably wasn't the best move. But when you're in these situations on low time, you're going to put yourself in a situation where it's most likely that you're going to blunder, right? Every single game, if we go back and look at the first set, all right, between Magnus and Alireza, every single game Magnus just dominated on the ticker. Look at the final times, except in game one. That was just a beautiful tactic out of the opening, all right? But set one goes to Magnus, all right? Appreciate the follow, BBotTFPCM, shout out. Zod, do you think you could beat Magnus in a game in your best time control, given 200 games? Yeah, that's way too many games. $200 games of bullet against Magnus? Definitely. That's just kind of how the bullet time control works, though. Right, my bullet rating is 2800, but if I were to play against a 1500, 200 games, I would lose at least 2 to 3 of them. Oh, hi, Josh. Right, chess master. Who is you? How many games until you win one? Reasonably, probably somewhere between 12 and 30. Could go either way. Because if Magnus is truly just like, sees a random 2800, right? He's 3200. He's not really going to care that much. But if he were locked in, it could take well over 30 games, or maybe 40 plus. Hmm. 200-0? No, not in bullet. I mean, my highest rated bullet, Magnus's bullet rating is 3250, right? Or like 3300. My highest bullet win ever was against David Paryarvan when he was 3160. So, we played 3 games. I won 2 of them. Although, granted, that was hyper bullet, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. That's only 30-second chess. But, while my odds definitely aren't great, if you gave me 200, just the way bullet chess works, I would win at least a few of them. But if you were to extend it to, like, us playing 200 classical games, I would win 0 of those. Probably. Yeah, I would win 0 of those classical games. Rapid, I don't know. We gotta flip the board. At minus 400 ELO, you should score 9%, 1 out of 11. Although this includes draws. Yeah, but Magnus is different than like a 1500 playing against an 1100, because that's the top of the Tripium. So his rating could arguably be higher than 3300. But since there's no other 3300s around him, or very few, you have like Hikaru and Alireza. Since there's very few around him, it's hard to gain or maintain that rating. So theoretically, their rating could be higher. So the difference in skill might be bigger than it appears. So it could actually end up being a much, much worse and more humiliating score than 1 out of 11. Which it should be. Or 12 games is a pretty good guess since Bullet has way less draws. Yeah, probably around 12. But if he's actually trying to win, it could end up being like 30. What? Did I not? What? Did I not flip the board? Am I going crazy? You versus Magnus with one arm tied behind his back, 10 plus 5. He's still winning 50 out of 50 games. Alright. He could win 50 out of 50 with no arm. I would say if Magnus Carlsen had to play against me with both arms tied behind his back in a 10-minute, 5-second time control, he would probably, and we played 30 games, he would probably win 22 of them, 23 of them probably, with both arms tied behind his back. Eh, actually, nah, probably 20, yeah, 26 of them maybe. While blindfolded as well. While blindfolded, maybe 23. What's the score between them now? Magnus took him out in the first set. So he's up 1-0 in the set. Yo, I dropped from 1600 to 1470 in like a day, and it feels like I forgot how to play chess, and I'm making stupid mistakes. I also can't get past 1200 in Blitz or Bullet. Is that normal? How do I grind back? As far as Blitz and Bullet, they're different time controls, and the way you go about playing and thinking in those time controls is different. So, you need to be less concerned with playing the most perfect chess to the level you know, and playing positions that you're comfortable with, solving many simple problems in your position, like lack of development, fighting for control of the center, getting your rooks on open files, just simple ideas, keeping it very simplistic instead of looking for ideas or winning strategies against your opponent, right? It's a lot more simplistic chess. And as far as going from 1600 to 1470, any chess player who plays serious chess, who plays for a long period of time, is going to see their rating fluctuate. It happens, it's a universal thing. It doesn't mean you're getting worse, right? If your rating continuously goes down over the course of like weeks or something, after you keep playing, you should take a look at your losses, which you should always do anyway, but you should look at them and actually really go over them to see if you're consistently making any glaring mistakes in your game. Not so much like the blunders where you just drop a piece. It's like, okay, are you moving insanely quickly when you do that? Are you not paying any attention to your opponent? Like, what is going on? Analyze your games, try and pick out the noticeable habits of when you blunder. Not pay too much attention to the blunders themselves, but more so your mindset leading up to the blunders, right? Um, just flag everyone. Yeah, but you re-entered the game, so it unflipped it. Nah, okay. Zod, what's the highest accuracy you've had in a full rapid game? 99.1% or 99.6%? Magnus is too old to flag. Nah. At this rate, at the way they've been playing, I don't think Alireza is going to be able to contend with Magnus unless he steps it up on the clock, because Magnus is putting him into time pressure on the ticker every single game they play. All right. Alireza can strike back. He just has to manage the time better. All right. Although, my goodness, man, I haven't seen Magnus in a losing position once in this match yet. That's crazy. Bro, it started. Refresh. It doesn't start yet. Zod, why are you eating tacos with seed oils in them? What are seed oils? What's your FIDE rating? I don't have a FIDE rating. My USCF has been 2100 since I was 14. What's the score? Magnus is up 1-0. What's the difference between USCF and FIDE? USCF is American, FIDE is international. Any hockey lately? I've just been playing, uh, like the beer league games. Our actual men's league season doesn't start for another month, I think. Could you play a bullet till they start back? They'll be back in a second, right? Next game is starting in like 3 minutes. Ugh. Can you explain these sets because Magnus is 3-1 in one first set? You just explained it. What? Can you explain these sets because Magnus is 3-1 in one first set? You have explained it yourself, my good lad. So the sets are best of three, and Magnus is up 1-0. So if Alireza ties it up, they'll play another set. The games within the sets are best of four. So whoever reaches 2.5 points first in the set wins. Kindly analyze their last game, Zod. Kindly don't be spamming in the chat, alright? Their next game is about to start, or I would. We'll have time to analyze before their last set. Hopefully, it goes to a final set, though. You know. Appreciate the Goat Keg 1. Shout out. Appreciate the two Rosalies. Appreciate the Rose Zachary Ortega. Shout out. Griziak with the heart me. Alright. At least Alireza's willing to switch it up. We see D4 to start out set number 2. Alright. Abandoning the E4 system. Switch it up on him. I like it. Come on, Alireza! I just want to see as much chess being played as possible, alright? If Magnus wins, it's game over. Not this game, but if he wins the set, it's competition over, right? H6 and then H5? What kind of anti-chess is this? What? What even is this? Even Alireza is stunned. He's like, what? What did you just do? I don't understand. So when the dark square bishop, after pawn to b3, you're announcing you're going to put the dark square bishop on b2, so then g5 is no longer necessary to protect from the dark square bishop, so you can play pawn to h5, but you only go h5 after you see b3, but b3 you only see after you see h6, because you know they're not going to h5. Chess! That's insane. Alright, this is one I don't fault Alireza for taking a second to think here. He's offering to sacrifice a pawn from the get-go. From the get-go. He's getting aggressive. Oh, baby. Time issue. Hold up, hold up. We're still only a couple moves into the game, alright? We're only a couple moves into the game. Saddle down. He's still got 8:58 on the ticker, alright? Plenty of time for both sides. No reason to hit the panic button yet. You have time on your clock. It's important to use it. Deep breaths for Alireza. Alright. I do really like this little maneuver by Magnus, though, making Alireza think right from the jump. Right? That's gorgeous to see. And you get the light square bishop outside of the pawn chain. Alright. A really, really nice open position for black here. Really, really nice opening position for black. Not open, not that the chessboard is open, but black can be very, very happy with how this opening turned out. Alireza, starting a bird time on the ticker, man. I don't want to see you fall into the 7-minute marker here, alright? Not already. Maybe bishop a3 going after the dark squares on the board. Alright. Knight to c3, keeping it natural, alright? Bishop g5, keeping it natural. Just playing normal, simple opening moves. Same with Magnus. But you see how Magnus is making all these moves quickly, quickly, quickly. Not spending 30 seconds per move to think. You don't want to fall into the trap of moving too quickly. Magnus has been masterful with his time management throughout this match. It hasn't even been close, right? The quality of play, while it hasn't been that far apart, although even still Magnus has been a fortress in this match. The time usage has really been impressive. Really, really, really been impressive to watch. And again, he's doing it against a kid who's able to just think and move quickly. So the fact that he's forcing Alireza to take all of this time, game after game after game after game, in order to try and strike and find any kind of advantage, let alone staying equal in the position, is just so impressive, alright? Knight to a4 by Alireza, trying to boomerang the knight onto c5 at some point. The black king has been centralized for 13 moves. Usually you castle it by now, but again, when you have these closed or semi-closed pawn structures on the chessboard, usually your king is not in his immediate danger when he's in the center of the chessboard, because it's not being threatened to be blasted open, and rooks aren't threatening to attack him on the open files. Dark square bishops come off the board, which the computer I don't think liked, because now white has an easier time accessing c5 with his horsey, but it's still, the position is still pretty much in black's favor here. Time usage, once again, goes to black here. He's gotten everything out of the opening he could have hoped for. A bishop outside of the pawn chain, right? If this bishop is on d7, then it's considered to be a bad bishop because it's trapped behind its own pawns, but because it's outside of the pawns, it's able to contribute to squares in the center of the chessboard on the queen side and not have to worry about blocking or being restricted by its own pieces. Alireza going into another dangerous think tank here. I don't like this one bit. Alright, maybe if you can start doubling the rooks up on the c file, you can get some activity. Knight to f3 is a very natural looking move. Stockfish hates it. Alright, I don't know why he hates it, but he hates it. Apparently there was only one move to punish it. Knight to b4. You have to attack the light squares immediately. I think Magnus is not concerned with like playing these computer accurate. Like his match strategy to me seems like if the move isn't going to make my position worse, I'm going to play it. If there's there might be like a hidden win or a way I can push or press the position, but I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to keep the position solid. I'm going to keep the game stable as is, force Alireza to find ways of beating me, and Alireza has not been able to find a way to beat him, right? Don't fix what ain't broke, baby. I respect the strategy, and um, if Alireza can't find any way of outplaying Magnus in these kinds of simplistic positions, maybe he should try going for sharp imbalance straight out of the gate. Eh? Zod is neglecting the Twitch chat? What you mean neglecting the Twitch chat? Right, we're also live on Twitch over General Zod Chess. If you want to check out the stream with a wider view, appreciate the follow Joanne, appreciate the follow Trey Block, or commentating the match, man. Ay, ay, ay. People get mad when you're Nessie the locked in monster now. I'm kidding. I do my best to read the chats, alright? Zod is neglecting the TikTok chat. You know what? I'm gonna start neglecting everybody if people don't start behaving. Alright? But the neglect's gonna come in the form of banishment. So it's not really neglect, it's just disintegration. Alright. Rook FC8. Again, he's just playing natural moves. He like nothing Magnus has done so far has been him overextending or trying to force insane calculations into the position. You've literally never banned anyone? That's not true. I banned. There was this guy saying, what'd he say? First 5 people to respond to me get like $50,000 or something. I was like, how do you like this response? And I banned him. How many sets are it? It's a best of 3 sets. There's 4 games, or it's a best of 4 within the set. This is set 2. I mean, if Magnus wins this set, it's game over. Game, set, and match. Alright. But it's game 1 of the second set, so it is far from set. It feels like in so many of these games, Alireza is taking minutes to replicate Magnus's moves or decisions. Right? Magnus decides to keep it simple. Alireza looks for any kind of way to complicate the game, doesn't come up with one after spending oodles of time, and then eventually just kind of improves his position in much the same manner. Right? Magnus took like 20 seconds to double his rooks up over here. Alireza is taking over a minute, and I think he's going to end up playing the same thing, just to play RFC1. Pawn to A3 first is a very natural looking move. I think the horsey goes to A6, and then after B4 you can't, or if you play B4, B6 might be on the table. I don't want to say Alireza is in time pressure yet, but he's getting a little close. He's getting a little close. You mean Orit, Zan? Orit? Varying just means one of 2 things. You are playing higher elo players on tilt, or you are playing people who understand the game just as well as you and can defend against your tactics. Queen to D7, going after the knight on A4 immediately, and I don't know if the rook on C3 is loose. I think you might have to capture on C7 or you're immediately lost, but then you can cede the C file to black, yep. And now you can never recapture the C file, and black is better. He has control of the only open file on the chessboard, which means control of the squares in white's position, and white doesn't have any compensation to show for it. This knight on G5 is pretty nicely placed, but it doesn't win the game for you. Alright, this light square bishop is staring into nothingness. This knight on the rim is dim. Its chances are well slim. Can I go B5? Is that something we can do to create some counterplay? Force the knight back to B8? Ah, yeah, but then you have a permanent target on B5 in an endgame. Right? It's always going to be on a light square for this light square bishop to attack if it's on B5. You got to be careful about creating permanent targets. Grandmasters love those, because if they have a permanent target in the position, then they can eventually just play defensively, make sure everything in their position is A-OK, because they know no matter what you do, you can never transport this pawn from a light square to a dark square. So eventually, you're going to be able to attack this pawn and this one if it defends it on a4. Alireza's swinging wild here. He's swinging wild, man. I can hear him fine. Audio is a-okay. Good to know, good to know. Alireza's getting cooked on the clock. I'm not gonna lie, he's kind of getting cooked on the board right now. The position is just really, really nice for black. It looks like white is forcing him back a bit, but what are you forcing him back for? Like, what is there to attack? Although after knight b to d7, really? There's nothing with queen to e7? I guess pressuring f7 does nothing. You can just defend it. Like it's nothing. Wow. Oh, Ben Feingold is somewhere in distress after pawn to f3. Never play f3. Apparently f3 is just a positional blunder. It doesn't blunder any one thing. It just puts white out of the game completely. You weaken the squares around your king when black already controls the only open file on the chessboard. That's asking for trouble, and you deactivate your light square bishop. Alireza is trying to get aggressive and go for a c3 break. And okay, maybe bishop to d3 was a step in the wrong direction for Magnus instead of bringing his queen in. And all of a sudden, Alireza maybe has a breath of life. You can get an e4, e5 push. All of a sudden, you're staring down the white queen side or white king side. White is staring down the black queen side. There was too much going on in that sentence, alright, for me to just pelt it out. This knight on the rim is still awful. It's brutal, alright. I don't know what you do about it. It's worth, I don't even know if it's worth a pawn right now, to be frank. That time is also brutal, man. That time is brutal. 2 minutes and 7 seconds versus 5:41. Magnus maybe cracking for the first time all day. We've seen a few miscues, but keep in mind, when you see these question marks, every single question mark that I've seen out of Magnus in this set, right, that the computer says is a blunder or a positional step in the wrong direction, has simply been Magnus solidifying the position and instead of pressing on for the advantage, going for a safe drawing option, right? It is not a blunder as in it's giving his opponent an advantage or he's giving up the win necessarily. He's just keeping the position safe and solid. It's a style of play that's reminiscent of kind of like Ding Liren. He's refusing to complicate the game. He's refusing to go into complex lines where Alireza's complication and tactical ability thrive. It's just a pure positional maneuvering battle where he's not letting anything happen, not letting anything progress in the game, and slowly but surely, because Alireza is overextending his position, he's been creating these permanent weaknesses in his side of the chessboard, as well as burning massive amounts of time in order to try and figure out weaknesses in Magnus' position, which so far have been non-existent. The bishop on g6 protects the weakest point of white's or black's position on f7, so if you ever go queen e7, f7 is now well defended. All of white's pieces are retreating to the first rank in an effort to reroute them, hopefully towards the center of the chessboard, but even so, it doesn't look like there's anything there for them. Black still has control of the only open file on the chessboard, so it's clear he's in the driver's seat right now. As long as you control the only open file with the major pieces on the board, you're not going to be any worse in the position. Alireza smartly retreating, trading off the knights here would be a bad step in the wrong direction for him. You don't want to help accomplish your opponent's plans. Knight hf2 was the only way to keep going. You had to keep retreating and bring a fourth piece back. That would have been insane. Oh my gosh, how are you supposed to play knight hf2? Especially when you know you need to play for the win. Maybe we're seeing just a little bit of impatience out of Alireza, but can you blame him? This style of play for Magnus is a thing of beauty to watch. Like, he has been a fortress from start to finish. He's literally saying, come beat me, bro. And, you know, like, he can't. I mean, barring a miracle here. Alright, 36 seconds on the ticker. Alireza, what do you got? He's just going to go for it. I think he knows this doesn't work, but he also knows he has 35 seconds on the ticker. Bishop takes h3. And all that pressure is alleviated. Yeah, but you only have... The only move that survives here is rook e2, and Alireza only has 25 seconds. Even this small step... I mean, 24 seconds is clearly not enough time, right? 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 You're you're winning a minor piece, I think. Yeah, but he's got 24 seconds. He's got 24 seconds to checkmate Magnus. I don't I don't know if that's possible. Magnus is still gonna win. Magnus for the win. Yeah, I don't know about this one. All right. Although rook to e2 is a crazy find, Magnus has to be. How do you play this if you're Magnus? Do you just play quickly? Whoa. Whoa. Uh oh. Alireza might be able to draw this, to be honest. There might be a perpetual check lying in here. Queen e7? Oh, you have bishop c6. How do you find bishop c6? With 17 seconds left on his clock, he finds bishop c6. That is asinine. Oh, queen e7. Oh! He's got 16.1. There's no way, but also a7 falls, b6 falls, queen b7. Let the checks flow. You gotta move. Alireza, you gotta go. You gotta go. King e3. Oh, I don't know. Now there's gonna be threats. Oh, there could be a knight fork in the position. You gotta be oh so careful. Don't hang your rook on g2. Oh my goodness. Push and p on both sides of the board. That bishop can be sacrificed. A second queen is on the way. Pawn to b7. Rook to h8. You can stop the queen from becoming a queen. 10.8 on the ticker for Alireza, but then queen to g5, but then bishop g6. You sacrifice the bishop once. There's going to be two queens on the board. Queen takes g6. Oh, Alireza. There's no way. Oh my goodness. Magnus Carlsen finally let the nerves get to him, and Alireza with the comeback of a lifetime. I think Magnus might have been able to. No, he had to go like rook h8 immediately. That is insane. Oh my goodness. Alright, Magnus Carlsen, after playing like an absolute fortress the entire day, finally cracks and shows he's human as Alireza takes game one of set two. Striking back. Oh, baby. Well, I resigned. He had 7 seconds. That was about to be checkmate in two. If we go back to the final position, alright, the knight on f6 is pinned. So whenever the king moves, this knight falls, right? The only thing you can do is move the bishop. You can never check because it's on a light square. And then the queen is going to come to h4. This is very, very simplistic and easy for Alireza to play. You can never defend this knight, so the king has to wander back. And then queen takes on f6, and then checkmate is coming on the next move, next two moves. And Alireza would have at least 6-7 seconds left here, or 8. To get the job done. So, in that situation, Magnus just resigned. Or eat. 6 or 7 seconds. Say that again. We got, is that Chris 420 with the tier 1 subscription over on Twitch? Shout out, baby. Why did Magnus give up the queen, though? I think he thought it would just be an easy in-game for him to draw or hold, and he missed. It must have been bishop c6. He probably should have used a little bit more of his time. Bishop c6 cut off the rook from ever getting to the e-file, and it cut off the black knight from ever supporting the pawns on the queen side. Basically, forced black's pieces in half. Alright. But it's only game 1 of set 2, so plenty of time for Magnus to bounce back. He still won the first set, so he's still up in the set, so even if Aruja wins this set, they still have to play a third to battle it out. Appreciate the heart me. Is that an alien? Looks like Roger the Alien, but different. It's funny, Oh no, no, never mind. Magnus played d4 in set one too. It was like they both switched over to d4, but no, Magnus been running with it. All right, let's see if Alireza gains some confidence. He's like, okay, I am playing against a human. Magnus loves this line in Rapid. He loves this, giving up that pawn on c4 in order to claim the center. He loves this. I'm gonna lose my voice by the end of the day. Alright. Bishop to b7, just solidifying everything. The idea of giving up this pawn on c4 is quite practical, especially in a game with no increment where time matters a lot. If you capture the center of the chessboard, you look at chess as a war between two armies. Squares on the chessboard are kind of like outposts within that war, right? Certain outposts or certain strongholds are going to have different levels of importance throughout the war, right? If a battle is taking place over here, then squares over here or a stronghold over here doesn't matter. But in chess, basically, the battle is always guaranteed to take place throughout the center of the chessboard at some point. So whoever controls these four central squares generally controls the war in chess. So you give up control of the center in exchange for, or you give up an extra pawn in exchange for control of the center, activity, and more squares to play for in the position. And the argument for black is, hey, you're still up an extra pawn. Center is the high ground. Effectively, yes.
Water delivered by Grandma's door.
Theory final bosses. Yeah, I mean, in order to reach this level of the game, the amount of film that you have to study is on an astronomical level. But they're at the top of the world for a reason. It happened Hikaru versus Wei Yi, running out of time. Well, in classical chess, it rarely happens, but at this level, it'll happen even if you don't have any increment. But in that last game with Alireza versus Magnus, Alireza is the Magnus could have played that out, right? But at some point, you give respect to who you're playing against. Alireza is the two-time bullet world champion, and he is known for feats such as like playing 30 moves with only 10 seconds remaining on his clock at 90% accuracy. He has a 3300 bullet rating. He's won the Hyper Bullet World Championship before. He knows how to make like 12 moves in under 4 seconds if you give him a simple position like that. So at some point, you give your opponent respect, and you're like, okay, now that you've gotten it to this level of winning, even though you have 8 seconds left, I have seen you on numerous occasions make 50 moves in under 8 seconds. I know you can make a simple 5 moves, right? And because Magnus didn't have any counterplay, resigning there was understandable. Appreciate the follow, Ortizelas, shout out. Appreciate the Rose Jardim dos Aparinos. Capture on b4. Capture on b4 with the pawn is a lot more reliable than capturing with the bishop. You want to try and maintain this c3 pawn. It's your main compensation for white having control over more squares on the chessboard, is being up an extra pawn, which is a thorn in white's side, right? It's not so much even the extra pawn, it just controls territory on white's side of the chessboard, so it's very imbalanced. A knight on a4 is an odd-looking creature, but it can boomerang onto c5 or b6, so it's not really that awkwardly placed in this specific position. Right. What's the score? In this set, it is 1-0 Alireza, but this is set number 2. Magnus won set number 1. It's a best of 3. So if Alireza loses this set, Magnus wins the tournament. If Alireza wins this set, they'll play a final set, which is only a best of 2. Bishop takes on c4 immediately is a blunder, but then capturing on b4 afterward keeps Alireza in the game. White now has a slight edge after queen to b3, going after the b4 pawn immediately before black has a chance to get his king out of the center of the board. You got to keep in mind one of the strengths of white's position and why he's considered to be better here is that the black position still has yet to finish development. Meanwhile, white has already castled his king, so while he's down a pawn in the position, he does have more material already actively in the game, as well as possessing the bishop pair, specifically this light square bishop, targeting the entire, not over here, but targeting the entire black queen side on the h1 through a8 diagonal. If Magnus wins this game, he wins the tournament. No, Magnus has to win. If Magnus wins the next 3 games, he wins the tournament effectively. Or if he wins the next 2 in draws. The pawn on d4 looks like it's hanging, and it very well may be. But that is a gutsy play call to go after that pawn with an uncastled king. Does Alireza go for it, though? I don't know. Is this live? It is indeed live in action. Technically speaking, the players are still playing online, although they're sitting 5 feet away from each other, because this is 10-minute chess with no increment. So when players fall under 10 seconds on the clock, if they were playing in real life, they would start knocking over each other's pieces because they were trying to move too quickly. So they're technically playing online, even though they're sitting 5 feet away from each other. Appreciate the follow, Adrian. That way you can move fast with a mouse. Appreciate the follow, Martin Rondeau. Why can't you capture on c6 and fork with the bishop? Because the knight on b8 protects the pawn, so the knight would capture the pawn on c6. Appreciate the follow, Confident Legend. Appreciate the follow, Ivo Dimitra. Appreciate the follow, Hoy. I'm not reading out the rest of that name, alright? You know who you are. Yeah. Alireza's once again fallen into the think tank here, but this is a critical moment. This one I don't blame him for. Every other game where we've seen Alireza fall into the think tank has been him doing so of his own volition. This time is Magnus forcing him into a critical moment of the game, right? You have to spend the time you have allotted here. He goes after this pawn on d4. The computer thinks it's the right choice, but from a human practical perspective, you now have your queen in the middle of your own opponent's territory, easy for him to attack and develop. And while you're up 2 pawns temporarily, you see how the computer still favors white in this position. It's very easy for black to go wrong, and very hard for white to go wrong. In addition, Magnus once again has the time advantage. So while Alireza isn't technically in a lot of trouble yet, this isn't looking great. But we'll see. Alright. Queen to g4, he's trying to keep a tether to that b4 pawn. And now I'm not really sure what Magnus is thinking about. Like, what other move could be considered besides h3? Maybe f4? Cutting the queen off with f4, maybe? Might have to be considered. Maybe knight to b6, he just goes h3. I mean, keep it all natural, alright? Just no reason to reinvent the wheel. You want the queen off of the 4th rank. Every square in the 4th rank is covered by one of white's pieces. That way, the b4 pawn is indefensible, right? And once the b4 pawn falls, c3 shall surely follow. Why is bishop to f3 bad? I don't know if bishop to f3 is bad, but after bishop to f3, maybe you could go queen to h3 and knight to g4 in some universe, right? I don't know if that's the exact reason. You might still be able to play bishop f3. Queen takes b4, and you could look at that pawn on e2, but you're already so far behind in development, you are begging for some kind of tactical trap in the position if you go after the material immediately. Pawn to g4 cuts the queen off from going after e2. Now that black has castled his king, he can start looking at things like material gains. The problem in this position is that black is going to be equalized on material, and the biggest target in the position is going to belong to white to go after. This pawn on c6 is permanently locked. Remember, grandmasters love permanent weaknesses in positions. They love absolutely going after or having something they can go after 10, 20 moves down the line after they've stabilized the rest of their position and pushed for space everywhere else on the board they can. They can always come back to the weakness later on in the game and go after it, right? Because the pawn on c6 isn't going anywhere. So to that end, Alireza says, alright, you're right, the pawn on c6 isn't going anywhere, so I'm not going to defend it. Knight b to d7 anyway, immediately going after the pawn on c5. And if pawns come off both sides of the chessboard here, it's going to be very difficult for Magnus to win this game. Bishops thrive in games where there's pawns on both sides of the board because they're full screen pieces. They hit both the king and queen side. If your bishop is hitting the queen side but there's no pawns over there, its effectiveness is limited. So If Alireza gets rid of the c5 pawn here, his odds of drawing are basically not guaranteed, but very, very high. All right. Appreciate the follow. Dot shout out. Appreciate the rose interociter operator. Shout out. Appreciate the GG worst generation. All right. First career gift to the channel. I see you, baby. Appreciate the follow. Austin. Rook to b8. Maybe a slight step in the wrong direction. Queen to f4 apparently, targeting the rook. But I can't tell whether it's bad. Maybe if queen to f4 and you play bishop takes c5, maybe there's bishop d7, knight d7, and g4, and you like trap black's queen or something? Appreciate the follow, Fall of Fame. Appreciate the follow, Sky Trixty. Didn't Magnus just win? Magnus won the first set between them, and now Alireza is up 1-0 in set number 2, or in game number 2 of set number 2. Magnus has been pushing. The longer you let the computer sit here and think, the more and more it likes Carlsen's position and thinks there's something to grind on for here. But now we're seeing the tail of the tape a little reversed, because now Magnus is the one who's pushing on for a win, who has to press on for a win, and it's going to be difficult for Alireza to try and hold this on the clock and on the chessboard. But at the very least, for the first time, maybe all match, we're seeing time mostly equal going into the time pressure zone, under 3 minutes. Time is closer this game. Keep in mind now, instead of being able to just play moves that he knows are a draw, Magnus is trying to push on for a win. Not only is he down 1 game in the match, but now he has the white pieces, so the onus is on him to try and play on for a win. How many sets do you need to win? It is a best of 3 sets. So set 1 and set 2 are a best of 4 games. You need 2.5 points to win. Magnus won set number 1. This is set number 2. If Magnus wins set number 2, tournament over. If Alireza wins set number 2, they go to a final set, which is a best of 2. So the first person to win 1 game and draw the next wins the tournament. Alireza deep in the think tank here. Time was close. Alireza, you're gonna make me pull my hair out, man. Right? Oh my goodness, I'm gonna be looking like Steve Harvey after this match. Alireza and his think tanks are killing me in these critical positions. I get it. You can't blunder. You cannot lose on the board here. I understand, but oh my gosh, man, you are abusing the fact that you are good at bullets so badly right now. You gotta go. Alright? This is absolutely nerve-wracking. Ay, ay, ay. I don't think queen takes h3 is a move. I really don't. Bishop takes c5 was the best move in the position. Alireza finds it. Knight takes d7 is forced, okay? Alireza takes his time, and to his credit, uses it exponentially well. The only move to keep the advantage here for white is rook to d1. If Magnus doesn't find rook to d1, the game is basically a draw on the spot. I don't know, rook to d1, bishop takes e3, queen takes e3, and somehow white is still pushing on for a win? What? What? Rook to d1, bishop takes e3? You have to spot queen takes b8. Oh. Can Magnus find that? Oh, he finds it on demand. Oh, baby. The only way you play rook to d1 is if you find queen takes b8. The only reason you play that move. All right? Oh, baby. What a find by Magnus. Ay, ay, ay. Pawn to e5 by Alireza. He sees it. He sees it. He knows. He knows what's up. He's like, Magnus wouldn't give me that easy draw just for nothing. Queen to g4. Whoa. Whoa! What is that? I mean, it's easy to sit there and critique it because, you know, I got handy-dandy stockfish slapping that bright orange question mark on it. But, like, your activity was the one thing you had in the position, right? Bishop takes e3? Okay. This might be a classic El Magneto moment here, alright? He's going to try and grind water from a stone from the looks of it. Knights are better than bishops in games when there's pawns on only one side of the board. But does he seriously think he can win this in-game? Like it's just 4v4. It's a theoretical draw. But this is Magnus, alright? This is quite literally the world's greatest in-game player of all time. It's not even close. Can we see the accuracy? Is the accuracy not up? Oh, I had the moves up. Okay, there we go. Alright. He's not winning this against Alireza. I mean, yeah. Like, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. But how many times throughout the course of chess history have we looked at an end game and Magnus Carlsen has been the side pushing on for a win, and we say, oh yeah, there's nothing you can do, it's a draw. And then 3 moves later, he just wins. And we're all like, what? Even the evaluation bar is like, no, 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 it's a draw, it's a draw, it's a draw. And then it's just boom, winning for him. Now, Alireza only has a minute to hold this. This isn't easy to hold. Apparently, the best move is to go h6 or h5. Can Alireza find the way out? Ay, ay, ay. Appreciate the follow, 1234. Appreciate the follow, Gomelo Mookie. Shout out. Bishop to a3. Alireza is looking for every single square on this chessboard to not lose. He's just going to waltz his bishop back and forth. 50 seconds on the ticker. What is king to h8? If you go king to h8, now king to f5, there's pawn to g6, and now there's no knight to f6 with a fork, right? You can still play knight to f6, but it doesn't come with check and a fork. 51 seconds for Alireza. You have to figure out a way to progress this game into a draw. You have to force pieces off the chessboard. Pawn to g6. Magnus is going after the pawn on e5, but after pawn to g6, it keeps the king out of f5. You cannot add a third attacker to the pawn on e5, at least not quickly. Pawn to f7 is now under target. Rook to e7. Magnus is pressing on for every single weakness in the position. Is Alireza gonna crack? Pawn to f5. Pre-move en passant. Pawn to h5 is such a key find by Alireza. King to h3. The only move to keep the position in the well, not in the running, but keep the position alive for Magnus. Technically, it's still a draw, but Alireza has 27 seconds left to figure out a way to draw this. He can't do it on the ticker. Bishop to f8, guarding against the fork on e6. Alireza playing picture perfect. 25 seconds left on the ticker. You gotta find some way to draw this. Keep in mind, this is the 2-time Bullet World Chess Champion, Alireza Firouzja. Alright, he knows how to make it tricky when it gets low on the ticker, and Magnus needs to press on for a win. He's down 1 game in the match. 1 pawn falls on e5. It's not going to be enough to force a W in the game, but it is enough for Magnus to try and play on for an advantage. Rook to b4 maybe. King to h6, hiding the king away. 15 seconds for Alireza. He's going to need a miracle in order to get this draw. Magnus is not going to give him anything for free. 13 seconds. There's no increment. If Alireza runs out of time, that's it. Alright, he has 13 seconds to summon up a miracle. Last game he was down 20 seconds and he figured out some way, somehow, of salvaging a game, but the bishop gets trapped. Oh my days, he trapped the bishop, and Magnus Carlsen wins on command to tie up set number 2 at 1 game apiece. Oh my goodness, every single square the bishop can venture to. Obviously, time is the tail of the tape here. Alright, if this was equal time on the ticker, it would have resulted in a draw, no question, but because Alireza was so low on the clock, Magnus Carlsen was able to grind water from a stone yet again, and he squeaks out a W against Alireza to even the match, or even the set up at 1 game apiece. Alright. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. We didn't get a chance to see how Alireza won his game, and then we'll go back and look at how Magnus won his before game 3 and game 4 start up, or at least game 3. Alright, how's Hikaru doing? Hikaru ended up finishing 3rd place in the tournament, beating Nihal in the match for, or beating Arjun in the match for 3rd place, which is very entertaining to watch. And this opening by Magnus, he hit, who did he hit with this opening? It was either Levant or Hikaru. He also played h6, h5, this weird little maneuver after they play pawn to b3, right? And it threw Alireza for a loop when he saw it as well. Bishop to f5, knight to c3, and black gets a very, very favorable position right out of the gate because he has this light square bishop developed outside of the pawn chain. His queen side is developed and safe. There's no weaknesses to poke holes at it. And white has wasted a move playing pawn to b3 because normally this bishop is going to go to g5 and you never consider pawn to b3. After you play pawn to b3, then you consider going bishop to b2. But now after h5, the bishop belongs on g5. So because of this, white has wasted a little bit of time, and that wasted time, the loosened c3 square, now makes it an equalized position where black can get a comfortable position out of the opening with no problems. A gorgeous maneuvering play by Magnus in order to gain a quality and even a better position here. And you look at the time usage, and this has been the tale of the match throughout. Magnus has used significantly less time than Alireza to achieve these kinds of positions, and it's 10-minute chess with 0-second increment, which means if you can achieve a comfortable position, right, you look at that as a win on the chessboard. Even if the computer might look at the position and you yourself might look at the actual position on the board and say you're equal, it doesn't just matter what's going on the chessboard but how you arrive there. And Magnus has taken 2 less minutes to arrive there, so because of that he's in a much more favorable spot. Because if you're equal in time, then it's like, okay, the position on the board matters. We need to try and play quickly, force the other guy into time pressure. But if you are at a significant time disadvantage in comparison to your opponent, it basically becomes, you know, you aren't going to be able to win this game on time. You aren't going to be able to pressure your opponent on time. So the only way of winning is by playing the best moves, and finding the best moves takes time, usually. So it becomes a battle of, okay, now I have 5 minutes and 30 seconds to checkmate Magnus Carlsen, instead of, okay, now I have 5 minutes and 30 seconds, he has 5 minutes and 30 seconds, let's see who's going to blunder on time pressure, let's see if I can force him to make mistakes on the clock, right? But Alireza, to his credit, did a good job of solidifying the position, right? He was much worse early out of the opening. He solidifies the position, and even though Magnus is still in control of the game, he has control of the only open file on the board. That's why the computer evaluates this position ever so slightly better for black, because black has control of the only open file on the chessboard, the C file, and therefore the white rook is kind of useless, at least in an offensive way, right? So even though the knight on b8 gets pushed back, it looks like white's knight is active. It has no squares to jump into because c5 is guarded. So there's no real activity for white in this position. And if you go queen to e7 here, targeting the pawn on f7, then the bishop just drops back to g6, and everything is defended in black's position, and you've just wasted time moving your queen out of harm's way, or into harm's way. Pawn to f3, not a better way to go in the position. Magnus was actually winning on the spot with queen to c2, and maybe this was his only mistake that he's made. I don't even know if we can classify it as a mistake. It just seems like a very solid strategy that served him very well. Queen to c2 goes after this knight on a4, by the way. You're threatening rook to c4, and then this rook comes crashing in against the knight and the queen. Black has a ton of pressure in the position. White has nothing to show for it. Instead, bishop d3, and black is still positionally better, but again, Magnus was just trying to solidify his position, not playing on too much for the win, but more so just trying to avoid complications, keep the game running. And now he allows rook to e2, this critical moment here. Magnus probably spent too little time here. He only spent 9 seconds, and after knight takes e4, he missed rook to e2. This move, attacking the rook or attacking the queen, forced Magnus to sacrifice the exchange, and after you capture on c2, take on h3, take on h3, I think you have to capture with the rook. And then after bishop takes f5, e takes f5, this 4-2 majority is enough to keep you alive. And the knight comes to f6 and helps you guard the d7 square so you don't just get overrun. But it's very hard to see, right? Alireza only had 23 seconds here, so Magnus was like, okay, I shouldn't lose this game in 23 seconds, but I think he missed pawn to d5 at the end of this. And now the bishop is activated, the pawn on d6 is activated, becomes a pass pawn and a win condition, and it's very hard to hold this game. Bishop to g2 loses the advantage temporarily for Alireza, but knight to f6 brings it back. Alright, it's very difficult to play perfect chess when you're back is to the wall, and when you're trying to play quick natural moves like Magnus is, you're trying to force Alireza to find wins in the position. Bishop to c6, a very strong move, cutting the black rook off from the c file as well as preventing it from ever entering e8. If it ever goes to d8, queen to e7 crashes into the position like a thunderbolt, hitting f6, d8, and a7 all at once. Something's going to fall. So after king g7, queen e7, eventually these queenside pawns fall, and once the queenside pawns fall, it's all over, all she wrote. You can't stop the b pawn. He could have tried, Magnus could have tried with rook to h8. I think at this point he thought he could just go for some checks, or Alireza's king would wander into a fork. I think after Alireza made a queen here and rook to g6, I believe Magnus thought he could wander the king into a fork, I believe, on like e4. But maybe there's nothing. But even this, he thought he could get a bunch of checks. Of course, after rook to g3, Alireza just captured on g3, and after queen to e5, Magnus was forced to resign, because even though Alireza has 7 seconds, the next couple moves are very, very simple, as forced maiden 2 is coming into the position no matter what you do, right? And while it's not guaranteed, right, Magnus definitely wouldn't have taken, or Alireza wouldn't have taken 7 seconds to play 3 moves. Appreciate the follow, Joe Dez. Shout out. What's the score between them? In this set, it is 1-1. Magnus is up in the total set, 1-0. If he wins this set, tournament over, and he walks home with the George W. If Alireza wins this set, they battle it out in one more set in a best of 2. Appreciate the follow, Miles. Magnus falling off. Alireza is the second most dominant player in the world when it comes to these fast time controls, so the fact that it's close, although Magnus has been in control the entire match, is not surprising. Appreciate the follow, time to chill. Shout out. How many years do you think Magnus will remain to be the GOAT? If he wants to, at least another 10. If he wants to. And then after 10, I would assume someone else takes his place. That would about follow the Kasparov line, I think. Ish. Didn't know Alireza was like that. He is like that. Or he believe that. Believe that. Look at the accuracy and look at the moves. We got an old Benoni, kinda, and then it just goes into the Indian game. Oh my goodness. Show the accuracy? Gosh darn it. Hold up. Alright, we're also live on Twitch over General Zod Chess if you want to check out the stream with a wider view. But, and there we go. I don't know why it grew as well. Let me shrink this. There we go. Connect 4, Magnus wins. 4 in a row, baby. Alright. Apparently this is a miscue. This pawn on a5 might become a target down the road. Now usually it becomes a target if you can get a knight to c6 and a queen on d8 to target the pawn, but because of this d5 pawn, Alireza is trying to argue that a5 is never going to be weak, and it prevents black from ever playing a5. I believe Magnus has gotten Alireza with this pawn trick a couple times before. Like, I remember, not in this exact position, but in similar positions, Magnus critiquing that early a5 pawn bush and claiming it's going to be a target at some point in the position. But we'll see, you know. It's still a very imbalanced game. The match is even. Alireza doesn't have to try and force things here. Every single game, it's just the way Alireza thinks. It's the way he works. He's trying to play for a win. It's his style. It's his credence. But you have to be careful not to overextend, not to get yourself in time pressure. He saw last game that he is susceptible to losing to Magnus if he runs too low on the ticker. He was not able to hold the draw. He wasn't able to move fast enough. So he's got to avoid getting into these sharp, complicated, not avoid getting into them, but if you get into them, you got to go for them. And if you don't get into them, you got to just play naturally. Trust your instincts. What happens if they draw? If they draw, it goes into another match. It is a best of four, and then they take a break, or if Magnus wins, it's tournament over. The opening understanding is crazy for Magnus. His in-game play has always been heralded as his strongest point of the game, but his opening has always been outstanding. He's basically impenetrable. Even if he doesn't understand or know the theory, he's able to take the game into a direction that isn't worse than him. Even in the game that he lost against Gukesh, Gukesh actually outprepped Magnus. If you go back and look at that game, Gukesh was able to catch Magnus off guard in the prep, and Magnus realized that he was caught off guard, so he simplified the position, which favored Gukesh because Magnus had a little bit of an advantage. So simplifying gave up that advantage, so Gukesh was happy to see that. But then from an equal game, Magnus was able to outplay him before the infamous blunder and table slam. But cool backstory for the game. Apparently knight to d2 is a straight up blunder and this pawn on d5 can fall? What? Wow. Pawn to g5, just one of those moves you don't consider. This is a crazy looking play for Magnus. I don't think Alireza thought this was humanly possible. You're giving up the dark square bishop, you're opening up g5, and now the diagonal on g2 to a8 is open. Alireza 1000% saw this, I think. He's just trying to call Magnus bluff that it's good. But I think the computer stockfishes like this is good. Now, maybe in theory it is, but from a human perspective with only 10 minutes on the ticker per side, can you hold this? Or is the activity for white going to be enough compensation from a human element? It doesn't look like it at first glance. Pawn to f6 even, and look at this pawn structure. The flying V, or shout out Gordon Bombay. I mean, the head of the V is a little crooked. All right, Magnus is doing his best to pay homage to Gordon Bombay and the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, or trying to recreate the flying V as best he can. Alireza not really is in the spirit of art. Score, it's 1-1 in this set. Who's better? In this game, Magnus right now. But Magnus is up a pawn in the position. Alireza has a more active position, and he has the safer king. You have to keep that in mind. There's no way for white to pierce through the black position right now, but as the game progresses, if Magnus overextends, if he isn't extraordinarily careful, he could end up blundering the position. Pawn to e4 does not trap the knight on d5, by the way, because you always have the c3 outpost for the horsey, or 8. Magnus has been playing this game picture perfect. Is there increment? There is no increment in this tournament, alright? Which makes it very, very exciting when it gets down to the nitty gritty below the 2-minute marker. Thank you for commentating. Easily my favorite streamer right now. Right now! Do you have any online chess classes? I don't at the moment. I teach in real life at a middle school, but I don't have any specific online classes. But I appreciate you. I just found you. That's funny. Appreciate the rose, Mark. I'm messing with you. I appreciate the support. Appreciate the TikTok CCM. Shout out. Appreciate the follow, Austin. Pawn to e4 looks like a preemptive push. Looks like it. There's a old school of the Russian school of chess always used to say, or always used to teach kids when they're starting at chess, to talk to their pieces before they make the move. So when you move this pawn to e4, you ask your pieces, since it's on a light square, you ask your light square bishop, are you happy with my pawn going to e4? And the light square bishop is like, no, I can't see. Right? So you learn to talk to your pieces and ask them if they're okay with your moves in order to help understand if is going to give your pieces activity or not. Even Magnus Carlsen says he uses this method, although obviously I don't think he's literally talking to his pieces, but it's just more so the concept, right? After knight to b5 by Magnus, it looks like the knight can hop to d4, and these knights are going to overwhelm the white position. Goodness gracious. This is getting very, very sketchy for white. I really don't understand why, you know what? This is all, wow, this is all made possible because Alireza played pawn to a5. If his pawn was still on a4, the knight never would have been able to jump in, and he could control this position. But if ands, and buts were coconuts, we all have a whole lot of coconuts, alright? I don't know about the rest of you, but I ain't got no coconuts. Oof. 99.1% accuracy, I've seen enough give him stockfish. This is insane work, alright? It's also the world's best. It's the world's best for a reason. Played 19 moves. Alireza, while he has insane understanding of the position, sometimes can be a tad overly aggressive, and Magnus just the master of maneuverability. It's not over yet, but yowza. 4 minutes on the ticker for Alireza, 7 minutes for Magnus. You have to start moving faster. I feel like a broken record at this point with how much I'm talking about how Alireza needs to use his time faster. But my goodness, you have to use your time faster. You have to go faster. Be sure to follow HH Chess. Shout out. Did Magnus destroy Hikaru? Magnus ended up beating Hikaru 4-3. It went down to the final game, but Magnus, man, he just clutched it out. Appreciate the 20 roses, Fozzie. Appreciate the ice cream cone, Marco. Shout out. Is there increment? There's no increment. If Alireza runs out of time, he runs out of time. That's it. He's got 3 minutes and 40 seconds to figure out how to not only survive against Magnus Carlsen, but also to checkmate him. Alright? Because once again, you can't just survive these games. There's no increment. If you run out of time, you run out of time. Magnus technically doesn't have to win this game. He just has to keep wearing Alireza down and down and down on the clock, and he's done it time and time again. Now keep in mind, Alireza is a super grandmaster, and when I'm saying these things, he 1000% knows them in his head. It's like, it's nothing he doesn't know. But at the same time, when you're as strong as Alireza is, sometimes you make the mistake of overestimating or underestimating how much time you need in order to survive a position, in order to keep yourself afloat, in order to not blunder, in order to win a game, right? You underestimate how much time you actually need, especially against strong, really, really, really strong opponents, right? Magnus Carlsen may be the strongest opponent quite literally ever, so there could be that exception. But hey, it's who you're playing against, And this pawn on a5, we see it all this time ago, alright? This was the first step in the wrong direction for Alireza all the way back on move 8. And it's not until move 24, 16 moves later, that Magnus finally goes after the pawn on a5. Grandmasters love these permanent weaknesses in the position, and then they love doing absolutely nothing about them until they have completed every other part of the chessboard, done everything else, and then only after every other aspect of the game has been taken care of do they eventually go after the weakness in their opponent's position, right? Pawn to a5 happened on move 8, and it's not until move 24 that we see Magnus finally going after the pawn on a5 again with another piece. Just the patience they have at this level of the game in order to not try and go after weaknesses that you see in your opponent's position too quickly is astounding. Now the pawn on g4 is still loose after queen to d1. The knight and the queen both attack it twice, and Magnus says, I don't care, I'm going to capture on a5 anyway. If you take on g4, then I play pawn c4 and invade. Wow. Magnus has, throughout this match, been holding a firm grip on the time management factor. Since game 1, he has been controlling the pace of the play, and Alireza has been the one reacting to what he's doing. There's an old saying in chess, you're either the puppet or the puppet master, and so far Magnus has been Geppetto pulling the strings for Pinocchio throughout this match, and it really hasn't been that close, except for the one astounding comeback from Alireza at the first game of this set. right? Where maybe a little bit of nerves got to Magnus, but also accurate play from Alireza helped him get the George W in game one. But if he loses this game, it's going to be game tournament point for Alireza with the black pieces. He's going to have to, at the very least, get a win with the black pieces on command. So you might just have to bail out and get a draw here, right? You have to be very, very careful for Alireza. Bro, your commentating is top tier. I appreciate it. Why ya? Shout out, baby. Bishop takes c4, a step in the wrong direction, because it gives control of the g4 square to white's queen. Alireza senses it. If you give Alireza a second to breathe, he's gonna breathe, alright? You give Alireza a second to breathe. Oh, trust me, he's gonna breathe, baby. You're seeing his pick up his speed a little bit. He's gaining a little bit of confidence. He's starting to understand what Magnus wants to do. Maybe this is what he needs to stay alive. You look at these two queenside passers for Magnus, though. My goodness. He's created a win condition for himself long term in the end game. You don't want to let the rook on f8 hang. Keep aware of everything. Keep f6 nice and tucked with the rook. Keep the f8 square nice and guarded. Everything under control. On the king side of the board, the queen kept at bay. You're looking at the queen side of the board and you want to push a4 eventually. c2 is weak. You can hop the knight into f3. Firouzja is trying to put the illusion of choice onto Magnus, create some kind of counterplay along the queen side through the center, and then back to the king side. But is it going to be enough? King to g8. Magnus says, I kind of believe in what you're doing here a little bit. Let me retreat, run my king to g8 so I don't have to worry about the f8 square nearly as much. You can't be afraid of the boogeyman in chess, and it's very easy to say when you're just sitting here commentating, right? And you can see these bright orange question marks and you're like, oh, there was no reason to move your king over there. You're completely safe. If I saw one of the greatest attackers of this generation moving towards my king side, I'd probably hesitate a little bit too. All right, 4 minutes on the ticker for Magnus, $1.17 for Firouzja. Firouzja is getting down once again into serious time pressure. And once again, throughout this match, instead of overextending, instead of letting the position get overly complicated and allowing Firouzja counterplay, we once again see Magnus retreat his pieces, not overextend, not try and do too much at once. Instead, tell Firouzja, you're going to have to beat me. You're going to have to find a way to beat me. And Firouzja is tanking in order to figure out some kind of way, some method in order to break through. He hasn't been able to do it the entire match. And unless he finds some way of breaking through in the next 56 seconds, Magnus is going to time him out. Rook to a8, sacrificing the pawn on f6 because it's these two protected, well, one protected passer on a5, and then this b4 pawn that matters more in the position. Queen takes f6, but this f pawn doesn't matter. Even if this f pawn is Gonzo Alonso, you can still play queen to g7, force the queens off the board, and then in the endgame, the passed a pawn and the b4 pawn are superior to anything white can cook up. Knight to f5, a valiant last try by Firouzja in the position. You gotta try something to keep the game alive. Pawn takes on f5, and now Firouzja is trying to make play on the light squares the position. Queen to g7, saying, I'm not going to allow you any activity. Firouzja, oh my goodness. Oof. Oh, that is a heartbreaker, man. That is a heartbreaker for Firouzja. Oof. Alireza, he knows if the queens come off the board there is no way on God's green earth that he is getting a George W in 31 seconds against Magnus. There's no shot. So he had to keep the queens on the board somehow, and he just opted to play queen to d2, trying to slow down b4. And in time pressure, nerves, everything just got to him, alright? Magnus Carlsen is on tournament point. He is one draw away from claiming the Esports World Cup final, alright? Or, yeah. He's half a point away. Or is he 1 point away? Does he have to win this? No. He has to draw, right? Half a point. Yeah. Okay. He has to draw. If he wins, it's over as well, but he only needs, he only needs half a point. If he wins, the match is over as well. The tournament is over. But if Alireza does not win, all right, it is tournament over. Magnus Carlsen on tournament point against Alireza Firouzja. Come on, Ali, what do you got? What do you got? With the white pieces too. Alireza's got to win on command with black. Oh no. Against Magnus. I wish we could see just one game of Alireza playing quickly, but he's got nothing on Magnus. Rickety click it. What it do, baby? Alright, shout out another chess commentator or content creator. Alright, a Sicilian, an Alapin from Magnus, an Alapin Sicilian. Oh, baby. Alireza, he's thinking on move two. How are you in the think tank on move two? Alireza! No, no, no. Oh, where's my Arizona? I need a swig. Oh, hey, yo. This is kind of like an Alekine's defense a little bit. Appreciate the follow, Andrew Flores. Shout out. Appreciate the 7 roses, Alex. Alireza takes too long to play. Well, when you're up against the strongest player in the world, it's difficult to come up with moves quickly, you know? It's very easy to sit here and criticize him for thinking too long. Although he is thinking too long. Alireza, you gotta go! Why are you thinking? Why are you in the think tank on move 3 of the chess game? I'm sorry, move 4. He's gotta settle down. You gotta settle down, kid. You gotta settle down. Relax. Breathe on the knuckles. Alright? Kids gotta breathe. This is not where you want to be. At the very least, Magnus is also in the think tank here. Alright? Tournament point for Alireza, or tournament point for Magnus Carlsen. All he needs is a draw. So nerves have to be in effect for him as well. But he's also probably looking for the driest way he can take this game. What's the driest course of action? Alireza's looking for imbalance. He's looking for sharpness. He's looking for a chance to play for a win, right? Give himself a chance. Magnus has to be careful not to fall into the think tank too heavily here as well. Right? He's reevaluating his life choices. You rushed him. Now he blundered. Surely Magnus holds a draw with white. One would think, but this is Alireza. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We have our first miscue of the match. Okay. It's still a very equal game. I won't let the computer, the evaluation bar, alright? It can't tell the whole tale. It will not. It's imperfect chess, 1000%. It's like the highest level of chess possible. But it's also 2 players playing for the grand prize on the biggest stage, right? Can't tell me the psychological warfare doesn't play a toll on you at some point after all the chess they've been playing, you know? No one can predict 100% what's going to happen, alright? But that's why we watch. Oh, you have to be very careful about this knight on d5 not becoming trapped. I would just play knight c7. I wouldn't even risk it with knight b4. I know you got to risk it for the biscuit. This is do or die here for Alireza. You have to come up with a way to win, but like, ooh, knight b4 just looks dicey, man. This entire position just looks dicey. I don't like it. g6. You're going to double fee and Keto. Tournament point for Magnus. All he needs is a draw. If he holds Alireza to a draw here with the black pieces, then it's tournament over. Alright. Bishop to f4. Alireza trying to stay alive here. He needs to figure out some way to press Magnus on. We are seeing some speed out of Alireza that we haven't seen previously. Alright? That is comforting to see, but we're also seeing that exact same speed matched by Magnus. He's not backing down. When Alireza starts pelting out these 2-3 quick moves, we aren't seeing Magnus fall into a 2-minute think tank, even a 15-second think tank. He's ready with a response. He's armed, ready to go. Knight to a6 here, and for the first time in forever, alright, we do see Alireza with a little tiny bit of a time advantage. Nothing to write home about, but it's something. Still vying for equality. Pawn to b4 is a very tempting move here, trying to go for the knight fork on b5, but I think Alireza is developing this knight with the purpose of rerouting it to c7 and maybe e6 in the future, so I don't know if pawn to b4 really serves that much usefulness for you except for loosening up the c3 square and the c3 knight potentially. Pawn to h4 by Magnus saying, if you castle, I'm going to attack you, which, to be fair, maybe Alireza just castles into it anyway. Alright, I don't know if Alireza. Maybe you play h5. I don't know. Maybe you just activate the knight and ignore what Magnus is doing. Knight c5, knight e6. Whatever you do, kid, you gotta go. I know your back's to the wall right now, cornered animal mentality, but you absolutely cannot fall into time pressure here as you have the entire match. Listen, if this game goes down to both sides with 50 seconds left on the ticker, and it's an equal or close to equal position, it favors Alireza. He's proven time and again, when these guys play speed chess, 1 minute bullet, he's the better player. But you gotta get there. You have to get there. This isn't going to let you get there. This is what has killed him throughout the match, time and time and time again. These think takes are. But also, you gotta go. The computer says you have so many options that continue the game. You can go knight c5, you can go d6, you can castle. You just gotta pick something. He's got to go. Pawn to h5. He opts with it. Pawn to b4 from Magnus. Knight to c7 needs to happen instantly. Yep, okay, there you go. Knight to c7. He's down a minute on the ticker. He's fallen into time pressure time and time and time again. And now Magnus, I think he can smell it. He's like, okay, if I can continue to move quickly here, if I continue to force him into time pressure time and time again, then I'll be able to unravel his position. Knight takes e5 is apparently a move on the chessboard. Does Alireza go for it or does he castle? Knight takes e5 is what you play if you're trying to win, and Alireza, it's a must-win scenario. Knight takes e5, knight takes e5, and d6, and no matter where you move this knight, the knight on c3 falls. It's a tactic Alireza is more than capable of seeing, especially with the amount of time he has left on the clock. It's a question of, is he going to play it? Does he trust himself enough? Are nerves too much of a factor here for Alireza to consider getting tactical? Again, you have to win. You have to win. A draw for Magnus, and Alireza goes home with the second place trophy. All right. It's do or die, baby, and you gotta live. Alireza, what's it gonna be? 5.5 minutes left on the ticker. He's thinking, but this is 100% a critical moment of the game. As long as he doesn't fall into a think tank after this move, it's okay. But if you let this get below 5 minutes and then you start spending 30 seconds for your next move, 30 seconds for your next move, all of a sudden you're going to find yourself in time pressure, right? It's something you gotta make a judgment call on right now, one way or the other. I think at this point, now that he's contributed so much time to it, he should just send it and go. It's do or die. You have to win. You have to live, baby. It's do or die. You have to live. All right? Alireza in a must-win scenario. What's it gonna be, kid? What do you got hidden in the tank? 4:45 on the ticker. Ali, you gotta go. What's the best move here? The best move is capturing the pawn. Go up a pawn. Why would you not want to go up a pawn? Ali, you gotta go. Kid, you gotta go. Oh, okay. He plays d6. Magnus instantly responds. This has been the tale of the match. Every single time Alireza has come up with a move, Magnus has had an instant response. Instant. And now Magnus has to think for a little bit here, but the pressure is still on Alireza. 4:20 left on the ticker for him. He can go up a pawn in the position, but it's going to be a doubled central pawn. It's not as strong as knight takes on e5, and it's going to be very difficult to convert this to a win. Or he won't be worse, but winning. This could be tournament point, chat. I don't know, man. This could be it. This could be it. Appreciate the follow, Chris. Shout out, baby. It's an equal position, but Alireza can sense it. He can smell it. He knows that if he can't make something happen, it's going to be over. Rook to b8. The fact that Magnus has also played as quickly as he has without blundering is so impressive. So impressive. Rook to e1. Magnus is trying to just play natural moves. He's trying to put the ball back in Alireza's court, force him to respond one way or the other. Or he's not trying to think 30 moves ahead and look for a win. Pawn takes on d5 on e5. A mistake that allows Magnus to equalize with knight takes e5. And now black isn't worse, but his chances of winning again are little to none in this immediate position. Right. Knight takes g6 isn't a thing. Rook to c1 might keep black alive a little bit, because now you get the bishop pair in an endgame with some pressure on the c file. Queen takes d1, I think. You gotta be careful though. Knight takes g6. Apparently knight to d5 shuts everything down pretty easily. Alireza's trying to keep the queens on the board. I think he doesn't think that he can outplay Magnus in an endgame. He's trying to keep the queens on the board no matter how he can. The centralized knight on d4 does look gorgeous, but apparently knight to d5 by Magnus can shut this down, and he finds it in under a minute. Magnus is spending some time here to calculate, but not enough not to equalize it to the extent Alireza has. Queen takes on d4 now. This is what Alireza wanted, I think, though. He wanted the bishop pair with one of the knights off the board, but I think because white's knight on e5 is so dominantly placed, it disables the dark square bishop, and the only way of truly equalizing the game is by playing bishop takes e5. Opposite color bishop in game, nigh impossible to win. It will be hard for black to lose. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. If you play your queen to f6, knight to d7, this is the best Alireza had, because otherwise queen to e8, there's also knight to d7. You have to allow the fork. Alireza down in exchange. 2 minutes left on his clock. He's down 2.5 minutes, and he's down a rook for a bishop. His back is to the wall. Magnus Carlsen is a couple moves away from becoming the Esports World Cup champion. Alright. Barring a miracle. Barring a miracle the likes of which I'm not sure modern day chess has ever seen before. This is a done deal, and Magnus Carlsen is about to claim tournament victory, tournament point here against Alireza Firouzja. 900 people tuning in on a Friday afternoon. That is crazy work. Shout out. Alright, we're also live on Twitch over at General Zod Chess. Rook to b1, and I think the writing is on the wall for Alireza. Alright, if he can't I don't even know how you can procrastinate and try and stay alive in this position. He has to. It's his tournament life. Like, there's no reason not to. You fight with everything you got till the bitter end. It ain't over till it's over, right? Maybe trite, but it's true. Pawn to f6. He's doing everything he can to keep material on the board, but every single time he raises his pieces like this, it creates weaknesses on the rest of the chessboard, and the closer and closer Magnus gets to forcing material off the board, the further and further Alireza gets away from being able to even draw this position, let alone win, right? 440 on the ticker for Magnus. Barring the miracle of a lifetime, one of the greatest miracles we would ever see in chess history, there is no way for Magnus to, or for Alireza to come back in this game. The one nice thing he has in this position for him is this bishop on c6, but faced with a 2.5 minute deficit and being down the exchange and the lack of counterplay in white's position, oh, queen to f4, just a beautiful play by Magnus. This is what he's done so well throughout the match. Forced material trades off the board, forced pieces off the board, forced Alireza to play simplified chess where he's unable to complicate things, and more pieces are going to be traded off the chessboard here. There is zero counterplay left. Magnus Carlsen a couple moves away from becoming the World Cup Esports champion, and Alireza Firouzja resides as Magnus Carlsen in dominant fashion takes the set 2-0 against Alireza Firouzja. Alright, Set number 1 goes to Magnus in a score of 3-1. And set number 1 goes to Magnus Carlsen against Alireza in a score of 3-1. Magnus Carlsen's pathway here was marked in his semifinal match with his game against, or his set against Karu Nakamura, which he won 4-3. And then he also beat Alireza, or he beat Nihal in the quarterfinal 2.5 to half a point. So the only two players that were able to take any games off of Magnus Carlsen was Hikaru Nakamura in the set that they played, and Alireza Firouzja was able to take one game away from Magnus Carlsen in the second set that they played. Every other game was either a draw or a win for Magnus. Dominant fashion. Dominant performance for Magnus from start to finish. All right, every single game he played, outside of this one insane comeback from Alireza, was just Magnus in control of the match from start to finish, and it really wasn't close, right? From the very first move onwards, it was Alireza trying to figure out some way of coming back in the match, some way of saving the match in order to not be pushed behind, and you would just see him burn time, and more time, trying to force some weakness out of Magnus, and Magnus just holding every game like a fortress. You go to any position within the match, you just see the time differential tells the tale of the tape every single time. Magnus always up in a comfortable time situation, and Alireza always pressing on the clock, trying to come back from behind on the ticker, and because of that, he was in trouble in actual positions on the chessboard as well. Even in the games that Alireza drew, you see the time differential, 2 minutes, 2 seconds for Magnus, 14 seconds for Alireza. It just told the tale of the tape every single game they played with no increment on the clock. It actually worked against Alireza. So many people, myself included, thought this might be a really nice opportunity for Alireza because he thrives on time controls with low increment or no increment. He thrives on playing quickly. But Magnus just showcasing why he's at the level he's at. Whereas if they fight, basically this match was Magnus saying, if we fight, you know, tooth and nail and we go at each other nonstop, you might come out the victor sometimes. But if I just play solid and I try to force you to beat me, I'm going to outweight you every single day of the week and twice on a Friday. And that's exactly what went down in the match. All right. Ay. What a dominant win for Magnus. All right. I appreciate you guys stopping by the stream chat. All right, we're going to be live later today with a normal stream while I myself grind for Rapid. We're going to be doing some viewer tournaments as well if you want to play against me, so be on the lookout for that. I'm going to go ahead, cut this stream up, and upload it to the YouTube channel later. Be sure to follow the YouTube channel over at General Zod Chess. I appreciate you guys stopping by the stream chat. I think we picked 900 live viewers, which is insane for a chess stream. Shout out. All right, 50,000 likes. I appreciate you guys tapping it up. Appreciate all the support on Twitch as well. Make sure to follow the Twitch and the YouTube channel over at General Zod Chess. All right, we'll be live again later in the day, grinding some Rapid as I try and push up to become, I believe, the 13th Untitled Rapid player to hit 2,600 Rapid. Be on the lookout for that. We'll also be playing some viewer tournaments. All right, I appreciate the support as always. Make sure to follow the YouTube channel, General Zod Chess, where I'll be uploading the commentary for the quarterfinal. And then I wasn't able to commentate the semifinal because I had my teaching job where I was teaching like kids in real life chess yesterday. But I'll be uploading the quarterfinal and the final of this Esports Cup over to YouTube at General Zod Chess. So be sure to follow that. Turn on notifications so you know when we're live later. And as always, to end the stream, remember, when the world is cruel, choose to be kind, baby. All right. Congratulations to Magnus on a masterful performance. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later today. All right. Till then, have a good one, chat.